Chapter 5101. Li Dianli's Claw left. Although they were in the first ancestral land of the demon race, Lin Feng believed that if it wanted to leave, it would have its own way. It was hard to imagine how powerful Li Dianli's Claw was. It was definitely a terrifying existence. Now that it had left, Lin Feng could finally relax. This time, when he came to the Suyu Lake, he didn't see the time reversal world. He had actually brought Li Dianli's Claw to this world. It was really strange. Li Dianli's Claw didn't attack Lin Feng, which meant that there was some connection between them. In fact, Lin Feng was very curious. What kind of existence could kill Li Dianli? This was destined to be a secret unless Li Dianli's Claw told him what had happened. Lin Feng didn't need to stay here any longer. He went back the way he came and met up with the Fire Qilin and the others outside. How was it? Did you find anything? The Fire Qilin asked. Lin Feng shook his head and said, I saw a world, but I didn't enter it. Lin Feng didn't tell them about Li Dianli's Claw. There was no need to let the Fire Qilin and the others know about it. If they didn't know, they could just pretend that nothing had happened. If they knew, who knew what kind of disaster it would bring to them? Of course, this kind of thing could happen. Who knew what kind of personality Li Dianli's Claw had? Then let's go back, Hua Xianxian said with a smile. She had invited Lin Feng and the others to go to Fengxi Mountain. Now that things here were over, they could go to Fengxi Mountain with Hua Xianxian and visit the Demon Empress. The group left. They talked and laughed along the way. However, when he was halfway there, he was surrounded by people. There were about 100 cultivators surrounding Lin Feng and the others. They were aggressive and looked at Lin Feng and the others indifferently. The leader was none other than Jin Zicheng, who had been knocked unconscious by the Fire Qilin's brick. This guy was obviously here for revenge. Jin Zicheng, what is the meaning of this? Hualingxian asked. Jin Zicheng said coldly, Hualingxian, this is between me and this group of Juzhou cultivators. It has nothing to do with you, so you better get out of the way. Otherwise, don't blame me for not giving you face. Hualingxian actually knew that Jin Zicheng had always rejected the demon cultivators of the 9 regions. Therefore, she said, don't go too far. Even if you have an extraordinary status, if you go too far, you won't be able to explain yourself. It's not up to you to tell me what to do, Jin Zicheng said with a cold smile. Clearly, he did not want to give Hualingxian any face. Jin Zicheng no longer had any scruples. He only wanted to teach these cultivators a lesson. At the very least, he wanted to cripple their limbs. Otherwise, how could he vent the hatred in his heart? Feng Yarao said, Lingxian, don't get involved in this matter. This is between us and Jin Zicheng. That's right. We should have settled this dispute long ago. Do you really think that we're easy to bully? The world is so big, and if we don't stay here, we'll have to find somewhere else to go. The Fire Qilin said with a cold smile. Jin Zicheng said mockingly, You're really a group of ingrates. Have you forgotten the kindness of the demon ancestral land so quickly? You actually said such heartless words. The demon ancestral land shouldn't have taken in you ingrates. Little Pang King said indifferently, Of course, we're very grateful to the higher-ups of the demon ancestral land for taking us in. However, there are some things that don't need to be said too clearly. If you say it too clearly, it won't be good for anyone's face. Hee. Ingrates can always find a lot of reasons to defend themselves. Jin Zicheng continued to sneer. Ingrate was naturally an extremely unpleasant description. This fellow used the word ingrate to describe Little Rock King and the others. This was simply a great humiliation to Little Rock King and the others. Therefore, Little Rock King and the others' expressions were incomparably ugly. Little Pang King said, Don't make the demon ancestral land sound too noble. There are so many demon cultivators from the lower realms who came to the Undying Realm. How many people did the demon ancestral land take in? Back then, we were only able to join the first ancestral land because my uncle gave us a primal chaos sacred stone. That's why the first ancestral land took us in. The first ancestral land of the demon race is only SOSO. Don't try to fish for fame. Sure enough, there was something fishy about this matter. Little Pang King said that if this matter was said too clearly, it wouldn't be good for anyone's face. Now that Little Pang King said this matter, it was obvious that he was ready to shed all pretense of cordiality. Jian Zicheng knew about the rules of the demon ancestral land, but he hadn't thought that Great Peng King would take out something as precious as the primal chaos sacred stone. Unfortunately, he wasn't fated to have such a treasure. Jian Zicheng was a bit depressed. Jian Zicheng wondered if Little Peng King also had such a treasure. After crippling Little Peng King, he would be able to rob him of all his treasures. Thinking about this, Jian Zicheng suddenly smiled coldly and said, "Isn't it normal for you to contribute some treasures? You have to pay immortal stones to stay outside. Do you think the Demon Ancestral Land is a charity organization? What kind of riffraff is allowed to stay in our #1 ancestral land?" Little Peng King smiled coldly and said, "I didn't say that. This is a matter of mutual benefit. It's good for both sides. Therefore, we're not as bad as you say. Wait until my uncle and the Peacock King come out of seclusion. We'll leave the first ancestral land, and we won't contact each other anymore." Hee, what kind of place do you think the first ancestral land is? You think it's a place where you can come and go as you please? If you want to leave, you have to cripple your own cultivation, and I'll let you go. Jian Zicheng looked at Little Peng King and the others indifferently. This guy was quite ruthless. He was actually asking Little Peng King and the others to cripple their cultivation. Jian Zicheng, do you really think we're easy to bully? We tolerated you before not because we were afraid of you. Little Peng King said coldly. Chapter 5102. Since Jian Zicheng had put it this way, there was only one way left to fight. The Fire Qilin said, "Last time, I should have crippled a coward like you. If I had crippled a coward like you, there wouldn't have been so much trouble. I really regret it. If the heavens gave me another chance, I would have used a brick to turn you into an idiot." After hearing the Fire Qilin's words, Jian Zicheng felt his forehead and the back of his head begin to hurt again. He didn't know if it was caused by psychological factors, but a burst of pain came from Jian Zicheng's forehead and the back of his head. Jian Zicheng regarded this as a great humiliation. He tried hard not to think about being knocked out by the Fire Qilin with a brick, but now, the Fire Qilin brought it up again. Jian Zicheng couldn't help but think about what happened before. His eyes flashed with a sinister light. Now, in the first ancestral land of the demon race, there must be many people talking behind his back and mocking him. Thinking of this, Jian Zicheng had an impulse to cut the Fire Qilin into pieces. He could just cripple the rest of the people in 9 regions. But the Fire Qilin, it must die. Do it. No need to be polite. Cripple all of them. Jian Zicheng waved his hand and said, "Yes." After receiving the order, the experts brought by Jian Zicheng rushed toward Linfeng and the others like wolves and tigers. When Jian Zicheng and the others came out of the central ancient city, such a large group naturally attracted a lot of attention. Therefore, many cultivators followed them out and wanted to see what was going on. These cultivators stood in the distance to watch the show. They had heard that Jian Zicheng was knocked out by the Fire Qilin with a brick, and this matter had become a joke. Jian Zicheng was a narrow-minded person who would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. In the eyes of the onlookers, since Jian Zicheng had decided to take action, the cultivators of the 9 states macro world would suffer today. Isn't Jian Zicheng too brazen? Does he really dare to cripple the cultivators of 9 regions world? Isn't he afraid of being punished by the higher-ups? A cultivator said. Even now, he still didn't understand what Jian Zicheng was thinking. A cultivator said, "What is Jian Zicheng afraid of? His talent was great, his cultivation was powerful, and he was of noble birth. The rock demon deity, one of the 3 great demon deities, was his ancestor. If the practitioners of the 9 states macro world were destroyed, what was done could not be undone. At that time, the higher-ups would probably turn a blind eye to it. After all, they would not destroy Jian Zicheng for a few useless people. Of course, when the time comes, Jian Zicheng may be punished, but this punishment will definitely not be too heavy. And at that time, the punishment will only be to block the public's mouth. When the heat of this matter dies down, Jian Zicheng will be able to swagger out again." Another cultivator said, "To put it bluntly, the first ancestral land of the demon race is still the world dominated by the demon race of the Undying Realm. The demon race cultivators from other worlds are just living under someone else's roof here, and their status is not high. If the people of 9 regions are really reduced to such a miserable state, they can only blame it on natural selection. The law of heaven and earth is the law of survival of the fittest. Where there are people, there will be Jianghu. If you are eliminated, you will be eliminated. This cultivator's words received the approval of many people. So many cultivators nodded in agreement. At this time, a young demon race cultivator said, I heard that the Rock King and the Peacock King have extraordinary cultivation. If they come out of seclusion and know that the people of 9 regions have been crippled, I wonder what they will do. Someone else said, with the 3 great demon deities in charge, who would dare to cause trouble? Unless they don't want to live anymore. The Rock King and the Peacock King are smart people, so they should know what to do. While the surrounding cultivators were discussing spiritedly, the cultivators brought by Jin Zichong had already surrounded Lin Feng and the others. Hua Lingxian was very worried about Lin Feng and the others, but she couldn't stop Jin Zichong. Hua Lingxian was a good person, so she chose to fight alongside Lin Feng and the others. Who's afraid of who? There's only one word, and that's fight. The fire Qilin sneered and directly rushed out. Then, the fire Qilin's body transformed into its true body. Endless flames curled around it. The fire Qilin's fighting strength immediately increased by more than 3 times. A human body was a great restriction for the fire Qilin. The fire Qilin rushed into the crowd and fought with a group of demon race cultivators. The fire Qilin could send a powerful demon race cultivator flying with a single claw. Use magic treasures to kill him, Jin Zichong said coldly. The cultivators quickly took out their magic treasures and controlled them to attack the fire Qilin. The magic treasures were very powerful. Naturally, everyone couldn't help but worry for the fire Qilin. However, at this time, the flames around the fire Qilin's body twisted and turned into 4 shields. Qilin's shield. This was an extremely powerful defensive technique mastered by the fire Qilin clan. When the Qilin shield was used, it could condense 4 shields. Every single one of the shields. The defensive power was very shocking. When everyone's magic treasures attacked, they were all blocked by the fire Qilin's Qilin shield. Under the protection of the Qilin shield, the fire Qilin's ferocity was monstrous. It continued to attack the demon race cultivators. The fire Qilin had the bloodline of a holy beast. Moreover, it was in existence from the 9 states. Naturally, its fighting strength was extremely heaven-defying. Swoosh. Jin Zichong looked at the scene in front of him with a gloomy expression. He took out a silver flying sword, planning to launch a sneak attack on the fire Qilin at any time. The silver flying sword's aura was abnormally terrifying. It seemed to be a holy weapon. He didn't expect this person to have such a treasure. If the fire Qilin was ambushed, the fire Qilin would be in trouble. After Little Rock King saw the situation, he immediately took out the divine mirror. He held the divine mirror in his hand. Powerful dermic powers flowed into the divine mirror. With the influx of dermic powers, the divine mirror was activated by Little Rock King. A beam of light shot out from the divine mirror. The beam of light swept towards Jin Zichong, who was preparing to ambush the fire Qilin. After seeing the beam of light sweeping towards him, Jin Zichong's expression changed abruptly. He felt an extremely dangerous aura from the beam of light. That aura made his expression change slightly. Chapter 5103. Clang. Jin Zichong's silver flying sword collided with the attack of the Empyrean mirror. Suddenly, there was a clanging sound. The silver flying sword was so powerful that it blocked the attack of the Empyrean mirror. These 2 treasures were both sacred artifacts. Thus, it would not be easy to use treasures to restrain the other party. Jin Zichong, I would like to experience your divine ability. Little Rock King said coldly. You? Trash like you dares to challenge me? Are you worthy? Jin Zichong looked at Little Rock King mockingly. Although he was jealous of Little Rock King's talent and luck, Jin Zichong was very disdainful of Little Rock King's strength. It was no wonder that Jin Zichong was so disdainful. It was mainly because, when Little Rock King came to the Undying Realm, his realm was indeed far from Jin Zichong's. Although Little Rock King's improvement was very fast, Jin Zichong's strength was also constantly increasing, so Jin Zichong naturally looked down on Little Rock King's strength. After the battle, we'll know if you're qualified to say such words, Little Rock King looked at Jin Zicheng indifferently. His battle intent continued to rise. Many people were very surprised. Little Rock King wanted to challenge Jin Zicheng. They were both cultivators of the rock race, but the difference in their cultivation time was too great. Compared to Jin Zicheng, Little Rock King's only advantage was that he came from the 9 provinces. In fact, many people said that the cultivators of the 9 provinces were different from the cultivators of other worlds. But even Little Rock King himself did not know what this difference was. Not only did Little Rock King not know, Lin Feng also did not know. But regardless of whether he knew or not, there were definitely many differences. Perhaps this difference could be of help to Little Rock King. Not far away, a group of cultivators was attacking the fire Qilin. After the fire Qilin transformed into a sacred beast, its battle strength was really powerful. It wandered in the crowd, and one cultivator after another was beaten half to death by the fire Qilin. As for Lin Feng, he did not make a move at all. He was watching the show. Feng Yaorao, Princess Shui Yao, Little Moon, and Hua Lingxian did not make a move either. Women should live beautifully. Therefore, it was better to stand aside and watch the show. Now, everyone's eyes were on the Little Rock King. The fire Qilin should have no problem dealing with the Demon Clan cultivators who were besieging it. The main thing was that the situation on Little Rock King's side made everyone quite uncertain. Jin Zicheng had been famous for a long time and was very powerful. Little Rock King was a rising star. Although they came from the same race, there were probably many aspects that were different. For example, bloodline, talent, cultivation techniques, mentality, and combat experience. Many intangible aspects could often seriously affect the specific situation of this battle. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Jin Zicheng looked at Little Rock King with an indifferent expression, then unleashed a series of incantation gestures. Those spells all flew into the silver flying sword. As a sacred level treasure, there should be a set of sword control techniques passed down. In fact, the epic war spear that Lin Feng had obtained previously had a matching spear technique. Every top-grade treasure had its own set of incantations. For example, Lin Feng's Hell King's Bell also had a matching spell to activate it. This way, the treasure's strongest power could be unleashed. Lin Feng really wanted to learn a spear skill that was compatible with the Time Spear. That way, he would be able to use the Time Spear as much as possible. But for now, Lin Feng hadn't obtained a matching spear technique for the Epic War Spear. At this moment, after Jin Zicheng used the sword control technique, the silver flying sword actually split into 8. The 8 silver flying swords split into 8 directions and surrounded Little Rock King in the middle. Each of the silver flying swords vibrated with extremely terrifying power, and each of the silver flying swords seemed to be real. It was very difficult to distinguish which of the 8 silver flying swords were real and which were fake. Jin Zicheng sneered, and the 8 silver flying swords all slashed towards Little Rock King. That silver flying sword is called the 8 Extreme Sword. It's rumored that it's an ultimate treasure passed down by the 8 Extreme Sacred Master. The 8 Extreme Sacred Master was a titled god? The top expert of this era, Jin Zicheng, seemed to be able to rise because he obtained the legacy of the 8 Extreme Sacred Master. At this moment, a cultivator on the outside said, obviously, that cultivator recognized the origin of the silver flying sword. No wonder this Jin Zicheng knows so many powerful techniques. He actually had such a fortuitous encounter. Someone exclaimed. Then, someone said, I wonder if Little Rock King can last 10 rounds? 10 rounds? I think 3 rounds will be enough. A cultivator shook his head and said. His tone was full of contempt for Little Rock King. There weren't many cultivators who thought highly of Little Rock King. However, Lin Feng thought highly of Little Rock King. He felt that Little Rock King wasn't an arrogant person. On the contrary, Little Rock King had always been humble. Since he dared to challenge the famous Jin Zicheng, he must have some terrifying techniques. Just as the 8 silver flying swords were about to strike the Little Rock King, the space around the Little Rock King suddenly distorted. The flying swords were blocked by the distorted space. It's the use of the Tao of space. It seems that Little Rock King's fortuitous encounter over the years is quite good. He actually obtained the legacy of the Tao of space. Lin Feng couldn't help but be slightly surprised. The strongest Tao of space was the Tao of space passed down by the god of space. However, it was too difficult to obtain the Tao of space passed down by the god of space. Other than the god of space, there were many experts who created the Tao of space. Then, some of the Tao of space disappeared, while others were passed down. The Tao of space that Little Rock King obtained was a rather powerful Tao of space. After the distorted space blocked the attacks of the 8 flying swords, Little Rock King shook the Empyrean mirror in his hand. Suddenly, a strange thing happened. A mysterious world appeared in the Empyrean mirror. Next, a lot of white fog escaped from the mysterious world in the Empyrean mirror. The white fog was quite special. When the white fog escaped, it directly wrapped around the 8 flying swords. Then, the white fog wanted to pull the 8 flying swords into the world inside the Empyrean mirror. Jin Zicheng's face couldn't help but sink when he saw this. Chapter 5104. What a powerful mirror. It wants to devour Jin Zicheng's flying swords. I wonder if they'll actually be devoured in the end? A cultivator said. Jin Zicheng's flying sword was naturally extremely powerful, but as the saying goes, everything has its nemesis. Now, Jin Zicheng's flying sword seemed to be suppressed. Once it was devoured by the Empyrean mirror, it was very likely that he would no longer be able to control his flying sword. Many cultivators could see this, including Jin Zicheng himself. Therefore, at this moment, Jin Zicheng's expression was very ugly. Jin Zicheng shot out runes one after another. These runes entered the 8 flying swords. Suddenly, something amazing happened. The 8 flying swords tore through the shackles of the white mist and quickly flew together. The 8 flying swords rotated fiercely in the void. When Lin Feng saw the 8 swords, he couldn't help but be astonished. The 8 swords could turn into 8 trigrams? It seemed like they had fused with the strength of the 8 trigrams. They were much more powerful than before. Apart from that, they were even more mysterious and unfathomable. The 8 flying swords attacked Little Peng again. Little Rock King snorted coldly and took out the Tianshu mirror. The Tianshu mirror floated in the air. Next, the Empyrean mirror shot out one light beam after another, which collided with the 8 flying swords one after another. It immediately blocked the attacks of the 8 flying swords. The 8 flying swords were suppressed by the heavenly void mirror. The void mirror's level is clearly higher than Jin Zicheng's flying swords. A cultivator said, "That's right. If the 7 mirrors fuse into one, they can transform into an ancient weapon. Therefore, a single mirror is already a top-tier saint weapon. Saint weapons are also divided into different grades. Some are strong, some are weak. However, the silver flying sword is clearly much weaker than the void mirror. Little Peng King hasn't had the void mirror for long, so he hasn't been able to fully unleash the power of the void mirror. If Little Peng King truly grasps the void mirror and can gradually unleash the power of the void mirror, the state of fusing with the mirror will be terrifying," another cultivator said. At this moment, Little Peng himself quickly charged at Jin Zicheng. "Rock spreading wings." Little Peng shouted, and a pair of rock wings appeared on his back. The rock wings directly attacked Jin Zicheng. "You can, so can I." Jin Zicheng looked at Little Peng with disdain. A pair of rock wings also appeared on his back. Jin Zicheng's rock wings also flapped. Bang, bang, bang. Little Rock King and Jin Zicheng's rock wings collided. Jin Zicheng's spiritual power was stronger than Little Rock King's, so Little Rock King was at a disadvantage. After a dozen rounds, Little Rock King was blown away by Jin Zicheng's wings. Goldwing slash. Jin Zicheng's expression was indifferent. He quickly caught up with Little Rock King, his wings flapping loudly. The pair of wings quickly slashed towards the Little Rock King like 2 invincible swords. When Little Peng retreated, he used the wings to protect his body. Actually, these were only energy wings. Little Peng and Jin Zicheng's race had evolved to the point where they didn't have real rock wings anymore. The technique they were using now was called energy wings. Although they were only energy wings, they weren't very different from real wings. Jin Zicheng's wings continuously attacked Little Peng's body. Little Peng was blown away again. He couldn't help but cough up blood in midair. When they saw this, Feng Yaorao and the others' expressions suddenly changed. Little Pong had only cultivated for a short period of time. Therefore, if they really fought, there was still a gap between him and Jin Zichong. They couldn't help but worry about Little Pong. Lin Feng couldn't help but frown. When he saw Little Pong injured, Lin Feng was naturally very worried. However, Lin Feng felt that Little Pong definitely had some powerful techniques that he hadn't used yet. Little Pong is going to lose. One of the cultivators who were watching from afar said. Many people nodded. Little Pong was being suppressed too much. Therefore, it seemed that Little Peng's defeat was irreversible. Jin Zichong looked at Little Rock King with an indifferent expression. He quickly flew towards the Little Rock King and continued attacking him with his wings. The Little Rock King was blown away again. This time, the Little Rock King's wings were about to break. The situation wasn't looking good for the Little Rock King. Lin Feng and the others looked glum. If this continued, things would get troublesome. It's time to end this, Jin Zichong said coldly. He was like a shadow, not giving the Little Rock King any chance to retaliate. He quickly arrived beside the Little Rock King, and his wings attacked the Little Rock King once again. This attack was even more powerful than the previous one. Jin Zichong looked at the Little Rock King with disdain. In his opinion, the Little Rock King would not be able to withstand his attack. However, at that moment, 6 pairs of wings appeared on Little Peng's back. Cloud 90,000, shouted Little Peng coldly. The 6 pairs of wings flapped at the same time. The 6 pairs of wings unleashed their power and collided with Jin Zichong's pair of wings. Jin Zichong couldn't defeat Little Peng and was blown away. Cloud 90,000? How is that possible? How is that possible? How did you manage to learn that technique? That's impossible. It's already incomplete. Even if it's complete, very few people can learn it successfully. Even the ancestor of the bestial god clan didn't manage to learn it. Kim Zichong roared in disbelief after he was sent flying by the explosion. From his shocked expression, one could tell how powerful the Cloud Journey 90,000 was. Lin Feng had the impression that the Little Rock King's 6 pairs of wings were different from the great rock wings he had used at the beginning. That pair of wings seemed to contain a very special and very high level of energy. As one of the best techniques of the Great Peng clan, Cloud 90,000 was different. The Little Peng King has even learned the Great Peng clan's long-lost innate techniques. How incredible! The cultivators in the distance couldn't help but cry out in surprise. We're different, said Little Peng indifferently. The Little Rock King said with an indifferent expression. The 6 pairs of wings on his back flapped as if he had teleported. In a flash. Chapter 5105. Little Rock Kings, we are different, made Jin Zichong's face turn extremely gloomy, causing countless people to ponder. Could the reason why Little Rock King was able to cultivate the Cloudy 90,000 be related to Little Rock King's background? After all, it had always been said that cultivators from the 9 provinces' Great World were different from cultivators from other worlds. However, no one knew exactly what was different about them. However, Little Rock King's words made many people feel that this might be the difference. Right now, Jin Zichong was simply envious of Little Rock King. However, Jin Zichong also knew that now was not the time to be envious, jealous, and hateful. This was because he had to block Little Rock King's attack. If he could not block Little Rock King's attack, it would be bad later. Jin Zichong wanted to dodge Little Rock King's attack, so he executed Cloud Journey 90,000. Little Rock King's speed increased explosively, making it impossible for him to escape. This was one of the enhancements brought by Cloud Journey 90,000. Cloud Journey 90,000 could greatly enhance the user's speed. Jin Zichong could only use his wings to protect his body. Bang, 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 accompanied by the sounds of violent collisions one after another. Little Rock King's wings swept fiercely onto Jin Zichong's body. The pair of wings that Jin Zichong had conjured exploded. Jin Zichong was even sent flying. Little Rock King quickly chased after Jin Zichong. In an instant, he arrived in front of Jin Zichong. 6 pairs of wings swept towards Jin Zichong. This time, Jin Zichong did not even have time to resist. 6 pairs of wings landed on Jin Zichong's body. Kacha, kacha. The sound of bones cracking could be heard. Who knew how many bones in Jin Zicheng's body were broken? With a plop, Jin Zicheng fell to the ground, and his body began to twitch violently. This is impossible. Jin Zicheng roared loudly, unable to accept what was happening. He had always been a high and mighty existence. Now, he was actually defeated by a cultivator that he looked down on. Moreover, he was seriously injured. This time, Jin Zicheng had injured his origin and meridians. Even if the Undying World had a lot of treasures, it was still not an easy thing for Jin Zicheng to fully recover. It would take many years. Most importantly, the injury to his heart was impossible to recover. Everyone knew Kim Zicheng was probably crippled this time. Even if he recovered in the future, he might not be able to return to his peak. As for breaking through and reaching new heights, that would be even more difficult. Everyone was very clear about this. Goldie Chonghin. He wished he could tear Little Rock King into pieces. But now, he could only think about it in his mind. You're still far from it. Facts have proven that people who talk big may not be really powerful. Little Rock King said indifferently. Wow. After being mocked by the Little Rock King, Jin Zicheng could not take it anymore. He opened his mouth and spat out blood. This guy spat out 5 or 6 mouthfuls of blood in a row, and then directly fainted. His mental fortitude isn't up to standard, Lin Feng said. When some of the cultivators in the distance heard Lin Feng's words, they couldn't help but roll their eyes. No matter who was seriously injured. Moreover, it was an injury to their meridians and origin. After hearing the ridicule of others, they wouldn't be able to take it, right? How many people could calmly accept this kind of thing? There might be such people in the world, but they were as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. The battle on the Fire Qilin side had also ended. When Jin Zicheng was injured by the Little Rock King, the battle on the other side had already ended. More than 100 cultivators surrounded the Fire Qilin. But now, there were already 40 to 50 people lying on the ground. The Fire Qilin was really fierce, to actually injure so many cultivators. This was the Fire Qilin. Its methods were indeed very powerful. What a good Yunqing 90,000. Powerful, powerful. Just as Lin Feng and the others were about to leave, a gloomy voice sounded out. Following that, a cultivator stepped out from the void. This was a middle-aged cultivator. When they saw this cultivator, many people revealed shocked expressions. This cultivator was called Jin Wusher. This person was a true immortal realm expert, one of the strongest experts of the Great Rock race. After seeing this person, many people fell silent. This was the upper echelon of the demon race's ancestral land. At this time, they naturally couldn't say anything. If they said something wrong, it wouldn't end well. Everyone was very clear about this. So, the cultivators who were watching the show from afar didn't dare to say anything. Senior. Little Rock King cupped his fists. Jin Wusher laughed coldly and said, "Don't bow to me. I can't stand your bow." After hearing Jin Wusher's words, Lin Feng couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. Jin Wusher's attitude on this matter was already clear. But thinking about it carefully, Jin Wusher was someone on Jin Zicheng's side after all. Wasn't it normal for him to side with Jin Zicheng? Could it be that he had to side with Little Rock King? Obviously, this was impossible. Little Rock King naturally wouldn't do something like sticking his warm face to someone else's cold butt. Little Rock King looked at Lin Feng and the others and said, "Let's go." The few of them nodded. But at this time, Jin Wusher said coldly, "You injured people to this extent and you're just going to leave like this?" Little Rock King asked, "Then what does Senior want to do?" Jin Wusher said, "I won't make things difficult for you. Tell me the cultivation technique of Cloud Journey 90,000, and I can let bygones be bygones and let you go." After hearing Jin Wusher's words, many people despised Jin Wusher. This guy wanted to snatch someone else's top-notch absolute art, yet he said it in such a dignified manner. His skin was really too thick. However, sometimes, when these top-notch experts were really shameless, even ordinary cultivators couldn't compare to them. Little Rock King was naturally someone with a temper. He had been humiliated, bullied, and oppressed. Now that he had resisted, in the eyes of countless people, it was a battle of an egg striking a rock. But he had won. This was a battle of dignity. Now that he had won, this kind of true immortal expert actually interfered. The various great powers had a rule that true immortals couldn't interfere with the grudges between the younger generation of cultivators or between the younger generation of cultivators. The various great powers abided by this rule. But now, a true immortal from the Yao clan's ancestral land wanted to interfere in the dispute between the disciples of the Yao clan. It was truly shameless. However, if the other party really insisted on interfering in this matter, it would be something that made others feel helpless. After all, no one could restrain the other party's actions. Chapter 5106. Are you trying to force me to hand over the Cloud Journey 90,000? Little Rock King asked. Jian Wushi said, if you make a mistake, you need to be punished. And there are many ways to punish. I didn't punish you physically because you are a descendant of the Great Rock Race. You should be grateful for this. Asking you to hand over the Cloudy 90,000 is also for the sake of our Great Rock Race. After hearing Jian Wushi's words, Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. Lin Feng thought that his skin was thick enough. But compared to Jian Wushi, the difference was like heaven and earth. How shameless must one be to be able to say what Jian Wushi just said? Many people muttered in their hearts, but they didn't dare to say anything. Who would dare to offend the higher-ups of the demon race's first ancestral land? Wouldn't that be courting death? Little Rock King said, if it was any other time. You want to cultivate the Cloudy 90,000. Naturally, I can tell you, because I'm not a selfish person. But today, I won't take out the Cloudy 90,000 because your words just now really disgusted me. Hearing this, Jian Wushi's face immediately darkened, and he looked at Little Rock King with a cold gaze. If it wasn't for your uncle's face, do you think you can still stand and talk to me? But back then, when I said those words just now, your uncle's face was no longer enough. Jian Wushi looked at Little Rock King coldly, then shouted, kneel down. After his voice fell, a terrifying pressure was emitted from Jian Wushi's body. That terrifying pressure directly suppressed Little Rock King. Little Rock King is in for it. Although his cultivation is not bad, in front of an expert like Jian Wushi, it's nothing. He can't resist the pressure released by Jian Wushi at all. After seeing Jian Wushi release a powerful pressure to suppress Little Rock King, a cultivator immediately said. The others nodded. It was indeed as the cultivator had said. The pressure released by a true immortal was very difficult to resist. Moreover, it was said that Jian Wushi was no ordinary true immortal. He was an expert in the second major realm of the true immortal realm, the Tao immortal realm. Such a cultivation level was simply too terrifying. In the eyes of many cultivators, such a cultivator did not even need to make a move. Just his aura alone was enough to suppress Little Rock King. In fact, even some virtual immortal realm cultivators would not be able to do so, let alone Little Rock King. Facing the suppression of a Tao immortal expert's aura, it was also unbearable. Little Pong King's expression became extremely ugly. The other party was a Tao immortal expert, yet he was so shameless. This made Little Pong King feel very helpless. In fact, in the world of cultivators, the most terrifying thing was those powerful and thick-skinned cultivators. They often did things without any scruples. Those who were strong and wanted to save face were much less threatening. Because of their desire to save face, most of the time, these cultivators would not make a move. It was a pity. Jian Wushi was not a person who cared about his reputation. Just as the terrifying pressure was about to suppress Little Pong King's body, Lin Feng stretched out his hand and placed it on Little Pong King's shoulder. Instantly, all the oppressive aura dissipated. The pressure disappeared, someone said in surprise. What's going on? Why did the pressure suddenly disappear? Then, someone asked doubtfully. Everyone revealed an incomparably surprised expression. They did not know why the pressure had disappeared. Naturally, they did not associate it with Lin Feng. After all, Lin Feng was too young. Moreover, his cultivation level did not seem to be very high either. So, many people naturally looked down on Lin Feng. Only those who knew Lin Feng knew why the pressure that filled the world and suppressed Little Pong King suddenly disappeared. However, they did not make a sound. Instead, they waited and watched. You must be very tired after a big battle. Rest. Lin Feng said. Little Pong King nodded and then retreated. Jin Wusher's face could not help but darken slightly. The pressure he released suddenly disappeared, and he actually did not notice what was going on. Now that he saw Lin Feng walk out, Jin Wusher could not help but think in his heart. Could it be? The pressure disappeared. Could it be related to this young human cultivator in front of him? After this thought was born, it was quickly rejected by Jin Wusher. Because this was too inconceivable, too inconceivable. He could not believe the reason in his heart. As a Dao Immortal level expert, you should have the dignity of a Dao Immortal level expert. As a Dao Immortal level expert, you actually attacked a junior. Isn't that too degrading? No matter what, the Great Peng clan still has a demon god level expert. You are not only embarrassing yourself, but also the reputation of the demon god and the Great Peng clan. Lin Feng said indifferently. As soon as he said these words, everyone's expression could not help but change slightly. A young cultivator like Lin Feng actually dared to use such a tone to speak to a Dao Immortal level expert. It was completely as if he was teaching the other party a lesson. This made everyone feel that it was inconceivable. Everyone could not help but have the same thought in their hearts. This guy, where did he get the courage to say such words? Wasn't he thinking that he was dying too slowly? Did he want to reincarnate as soon as possible? And when he heard Lin Feng's words, Jin Wusher's face immediately revealed an angry gaze. A young junior was actually teaching him a lesson in front of everyone. This was really preposterous. This was completely not putting him in his eyes. This infuriated Jin Wusher. Jin Wusher was arrogant. He even looked down on the demon race cultivators who had ascended to the undying realm, not to mention the human race cultivators. In his eyes, the human race cultivators seemed to always be associated with the word weak and could not be separated. Although there would occasionally be a few experts in the human race, it was only occasionally and not universally. In his eyes, Lin Feng was equivalent to a low-level cultivator from a low-level race. So, Lin Feng's behavior was something that Jin Wusher absolutely could not tolerate. Kid, who do you think you are? How dare you make irresponsible remarks here? Jin Wusher looked at Lin Feng indifferently. In his eyes, Lin Feng was no different from a dead man. Jin Wusher raised his right hand. A palm struck towards Lin Feng. That terrifying palm formed a powerful palm wind that directly enveloped Lin Feng. Chapter 5107. That kid has angered Jin Wusher. He's dead for sure. Some cultivators exclaimed when they saw Jin Wusher attack. Other than Little Peng Emperor and the others, almost everyone thought that Lin Feng was dead for sure. Taking the attack of a Dao Immortal expert like Jin Wusher, it was indeed something that made people feel despair. Jin Wusher's punch was about to reach Lin Feng's body, but at that moment, everybody saw that Lin Feng had suddenly attacked. The moment Lin Feng attacked, many people couldn't help but have a thought. Facing the attack of an expert like Jin Wusher, how could Lin Feng still attack? It was truly a little inconceivable. Everyone's thoughts had yet to dissipate. In the next moment, Lin Feng and Jin Wusher collided. Bang! Accompanied by the violent sound of collision. Everyone saw Lin Feng and Jin Wusher. They were actually evenly matched. Both sides took 3 steps back. Everyone's face couldn't help but reveal an expression as if they had seen a ghost. Because Lin Feng, such a young cultivator, was actually able to take on a powerful existence like Jin Wusher without being defeated. Wasn't this too unbelievable? How is this possible? This was the thought that appeared in every cultivator's mind. Who exactly are you? Jin Wusher's face revealed a solemn expression. Such a young cultivator was actually able to take on a palm strike without being defeated. What kind of cultivation did he have to be able to do this? But the key point was that Lin Feng was too young. He was a little too young. You don't need to know who I am. I'll give Dapeng Demon Godface and won't lower myself to your level today. You can leave now. Lin Feng said indifferently. After hearing Lin Feng's words, Jin Wusher's mouth couldn't help but twitch violently. Because Lin Feng's words were filled with disdain towards him. This infuriated Jin Wusher. He naturally wouldn't retreat just like that. Although Lin Feng's combat power was extraordinary, Jin Wusher wasn't necessarily afraid of Lin Feng. This was because Jin Wusher's cultivation was also very strong. In addition to his own cultivation, Jin Wusher's accumulation was also very strong. His battle experience was also very rich. In Jin Wusher's opinion, the reason why Lin Feng was able to display such strength was not because of Lin Feng's own strength. It was very likely that Lin Feng had used some kind of powerful treasure to display such strength. It was mainly because Lin Feng was too young. Therefore, it was hard for people to believe that he had such combat strength. One had to know. Even the Undying Realm's 8 young masters were much older than Lin Feng. Since Lin Feng had relied on a magic treasure to have such strength, then it was nothing at all. Because to activate such a magic treasure, the consumption of magic power would definitely be incomparably shocking. From Jin Wusher's point of view, Lin Feng wouldn't be able to hold on for too long. Jan Wusher sneered and said, "Kid, you're just a young human cultivator, yet you dare to be so arrogant in my demon clan's ancestral land. Who gave you such guts? Don't you know that there's always someone better than you?" Said Lin Feng. "There's always someone stronger than you. You should be happy that you're in the ancestral land of the animal clan. If you were in the outside world, you'd be a dead man already," said Lin Feng. Many people exclaimed because Lin Feng's words were really arrogant. It was as if he didn't put Jin Wusher in his eyes at all. This made everyone couldn't help but reveal a wry smile. Jin Wusher was such a strong existence, but in Lin Feng's eyes, was he really so unbearable? In fact, many people thought that Lin Feng had relied on some powerful magic treasure, or some special method to increase his battle strength, but after all, this wasn't his own strength. Therefore, if he thought that he could rely on these methods to show off in front of Jin Wusher, then he was gravely mistaken. A Dao Immortal's dignity was absolutely not to be violated, and a Dao Immortal's cultivation level was not something that could be resisted by relying on magic treasures or special methods. Even if you could resist for a short period of time, how long would you be able to hold on in a real battle? When the time came, you would still end up in a rather miserable state. Jin Wusher was so angry that he laughed and said, "What kind of genius haven't I seen before? But it's really the first time I've seen someone as arrogant as you. Today, I'll let you know that if you want to rely on external strength to fight against a Dao Immortal, it's simply a fool's dream. Don't worry, I won't kill you, but I will take away your magic treasure. With your cultivation level, such a powerful magic treasure won't do you any good, so I'll keep it for you for a while." Jin Wusher was definitely a hypocrite. He always liked to find excuses for the things he did. After Jin Wusher finished speaking, he walked towards Lin Feng. A powerful spiritual energy surged out of his palm, and that spiritual energy instantly transformed into an ancient, sacred mountain. Jin Wusher flipped his hand, and that sacred mountain flew out and suppressed Lin Feng. This sacred art was called the Sacred Mountain in the Palm, and it was a type of suppressive sacred art. In the hands of a strong cultivator like Jin Wusher, this sacred art displayed a terrifying power. Stupid and ignorant. Facing Jin Wusher's attack, Lin Feng said coldly. He only said 5 words, but when everyone heard Lin Feng's words, they all laughed bitterly. Until now, Lin Feng still didn't know the difference between him and Jin Wusher. He was still so contemptuous and disdainful towards Jin Wusher. He was too arrogant. In many people's eyes, Lin Feng was an arrogant person who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth just because he had some strength. And such a person, if he didn't meet a top expert, he would naturally be safe and sound. And if he acted tough, no one would be able to do anything to him. If he met a top expert, he would kick an iron plate. For example, now that Lin Feng had kicked an iron plate, one could imagine how miserable his ending would be. At this moment, Lin Feng's hands formed a seal, and he displayed the sacred art, emptiness of all ages. This sacred art, as a top sacred art of the human race in the previous era, it was naturally extremely powerful. After Lin Feng displayed this sacred art, a terrifying power that spanned across time and space surged out from the void. That terrifying power seemed to be able to shatter the heavens and 10,000 worlds. That terrifying power collided with Jin Wusher's attack. The sacred mountain that Jin Wusher condensed was instantly destroyed. Next, that terrifying power struck Jin Wusher's body, and Jin Wusher was instantly sent flying. Wow! In midair, Jin Wusher couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 5108. Everyone was dumbfounded. The Tao Immortal Realm expert Jin Wushi. He was actually sent flying by a young cultivator. Many people even thought that this was a dream and then asked their friends to slap them awake. But when their friends slapped them, those cultivators were dizzy and blood flowed out of their mouths. Who asked cultivators to be so strong? The power of a casual slap was not to be underestimated. So, those cultivators who were slapped all looked pitiful and then started to fight with their friends. As they fought, they scolded their friends for slapping them with such strength. Was he trying to use his power to avenge a personal grudge? But more people looked at Lin Feng. Shock, disbelief, horror, respect. There were all kinds of gazes. But there was no jealousy. When the gap between two parties was too big, there was no way to be jealous. Usually, when the gap between two parties wasn't too big, the one who was slightly behind would be jealous of the one who was better. This world, it was just so magical. With a plop, Jin Wushi fell to the ground. His hair was disheveled. For a Tao Immortal Realm expert, he was really in a sorry state. Jin Wushi was a proud person. From the moment he appeared, he had always had a high and mighty attitude. Today, Jin Wushi ended up like this. In his heart, naturally, he couldn't accept it. This is definitely not true. How can I lose to a young human cultivator? Jin Wushi roared in anger. His eyes had turned blood red. Jin Wushi jumped up and pounced towards Lin Feng. He wasn't convinced. How could he possibly lose to a young human cultivator? So, Jin Wushi wanted to regain his face. At this moment, Lin Feng waved his sleeves and a terrifying power surged out and struck Jin Wushi's body. Jin Wushi, as though he was struck by lightning, he was sent flying again. Wah! Jin Wushi spat out another mouthful of blood. His face became even paler and uglier. Kneel down and talk to me. Lin Feng looked at Jin Wushi indifferently. He waved his hand and a terrifying power surged out. That power, it headed straight for Jin Wushi. Ah! Jin Wushi roared in anger. He began to struggle, but he couldn't break free from Lin Feng's suppression. With a plop, Jin Wushi knelt on the ground. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to tear you into pieces. Jin Wushi roared like a madman. When had he ever been humiliated like this? Surprisingly, he had knelt down in front of so many people, a young human cultivator. Jin Wushi ground his teeth. He hated Lin Feng so much that even the water of the 5 lakes and 4 oceans couldn't wash away his hatred. And the surrounding cultivators, they were all dumbfounded. Wasn't Lin Feng a bit too strong? Jin Wushi was a Tao Immortal expert. Moreover, this was the ancestral land of the demon race. He actually asked Jin Wushi to kneel. He was unimaginably strong. Wasn't he afraid of offending the number 1 ancestral land of the demon race? But thinking about how Lin Feng was so young and so strong, he must have something to rely on. Otherwise, he wouldn't dare to be so bold. Who is this young master? He's too strong? Someone said. They were extremely curious about Lin Feng's identity. To be so strong, it means that his bloodline must be terrifying. I wonder which human race he is from? Someone continued. The human race was once glorious. 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. Human demon, human ancestor, and other experts. They were all peak existences in the history of the human race. There were also many innate humans. Although it had declined, it had once flourished for a period of time. Perhaps, Lin Feng was a top genius at that time. He sealed himself in the divine stone. Now that he was born, many people felt that there was a possibility. Or else, it was hard to explain how Lin Feng could be so strong at such a young age. If it was someone from this era, it would be very difficult to have such battle strength at his age. One had to know. The 8 young masters were much older than Lin Feng. Do you really think I don't dare to kill you? Lin Feng put his hands behind his back and looked at Jin Wushi. Everyone felt a little dazed. Everyone felt. The person standing there didn't seem to be a young human cultivator, but a human emperor. He was so strong. His temperament was so extraordinary. Jin Wushi opened his mouth. He wanted to continue cursing Lin Feng, but some words on the tip of his tongue. But he didn't say it, because he really felt it. Lin Feng wanted to kill him, although this was the ancestral land of the demon race. But it was still difficult to intimidate Lin Feng. Kid. No matter who you are, remember, this is the ancestral land of the demon race, not a place for you to behave atrociously. At this moment, a cold voice came from the void. Following that, a cultivator stepped out. This was a middle-aged cultivator. He gave off a dignified feeling. This person was called Jin Wuzhong, and he was also a cultivator of the Great Rock Clan. And he was Jin Wushi's cousin. Next, another 6 cultivators stepped out. There were men and women among those cultivators, and they all looked coldly at Lin Feng. There were a total of 7 experts, and they were all true immortals. All these years, there were many powerful experts in the first ancestral land of the demon race. Therefore, Lin Feng wasn't surprised to see so many true immortals appear. And these true immortals were only a portion of the true immortals in the first ancestral land of the demon race. The true immortal expert who spoke was abnormally strong, definitely much stronger than Jin Wushi, who Lin Feng had defeated before. Lin Feng was a little uncertain about this person's realm. After hearing this person's question, Lin Feng said indifferently, "Sir, shouldn't you go and teach Jin Wushi a lesson first?" As a Dao immortal expert, this guy actually targeted a young cultivator. It's really too shameless. But this guy is trash. He actually lost to me. In the future, he should stay at home and cultivate in seclusion, so as not to come out and embarrass himself. Kid, you're too arrogant. Jin Wushi was so angry that his whole body trembled. You're courting death. Jin Wuzhong's face suddenly sank, and then he slapped towards Lin Feng. His body immediately exuded an immortal and indestructible aura. Golden immortal. This person was actually a golden immortal expert. No wonder this person's aura was so terrifying. Lin Feng knew that he wasn't a match for this person, but it wasn't that he didn't have a way to fight against him. Lin Feng planned to join forces with the Demon Lord to resist this person's attack, and then quickly go to the exit with Little Rock King and the others. When they reached the exit, Lin Feng believed that he could successfully break through the restriction and leave with his own methods. Chapter 5109. When he saw this figure, Lin Feng was overjoyed. The Rock King. The Rock King had appeared. The Rock King slapped at Jin Wuzhong. Bang! The sound of a violent collision was heard. The Rock King and Jin Wuzhong collided fiercely. The Rock King was unscathed. Jin Wuzhong was actually forced to retreat. How did you become so strong? Jin Wuzhong looked at the Rock King in disbelief. Lin Feng was also very shocked. The Rock King forced Jin Wuzhong to retreat. It was truly inconceivable, because Jin Wuzhong was a golden immortal expert. It seemed that after the Rock King entered the world of time reversal, he had obtained great benefits. Lin Feng suddenly thought of his father, Lin Beitian. He had also entered the world of time reversal and soared into the sky. That world was really something to look forward to. The Rock King did not answer Jin Wuzhong's question. Instead, he turned to Lin Feng and smiled. Back in the Tianwu continent, Lin Feng and the Rock King were very close. The Rock King had always treated Lin Feng as his own nephew. Now that he saw Lin Feng again, he was naturally very happy. Senior. Lin Feng cupped his fists and bowed to the Rock King. Okay, you can leave. I will take care of today's matter for you. The Rock King patted Lin Feng's shoulder and said. Lin Feng nodded and left. At this time, Lin Feng realized that the Peacock King was standing beside the Fire Qilin and the others. Lin Feng cupped his fists and bowed to the Peacock King. The Peacock King nodded in agreement. If the demon race can't tolerate us, we can leave today, the Rock King said. Jin Wuzhong sneered and said, You think you can come and go as you please? What do you think the demon race's ancestral land is? And that human brat, he injured Jin Wushi so badly, how can we let him leave like this? If this news spreads, where will the face of the demon race's first ancestral land go? The great Peng Emperor asked, Then what do you plan to do? For your sake, we'll let him cripple his own arm, and we'll forgive him, Jin Wuzhong said. When King Zhan Peng heard Jin Wuzhong, he was so angry that he started laughing. He said, I'm sure you know the whole story better than I do. We're not afraid of you, we just don't want to cause trouble. But we're not afraid of trouble either. If you want to fight, we'll keep you company. Hee hee, You and your nephew are the same. Both of you are ungrateful wretches. If it weren't for our first ancestral land, if it weren't for the guidance of the three Yao gods, do you think you would be so strong right now? Jin Wuzhong said coldly. Actually, this was an equivalent exchange. This was because the Great Pong King and Peacock King had offered the extremely precious Primal Chaos Sacred Heavenstone to the three Yao gods. Or else, would the three Yao gods care about the Great Pong King and the others? Of course not. However, the Great Rock King did not want to find excuses for anything. So, the Great Pong King didn't refute Jin Wuzhong's words. He said, "There are some things I don't want to explain, and I don't want to talk too much about. The three ancient ferocious beasts have taught me a lot, and I will never forget the kindness of the Peacock King. Now, our relationship with the first ancestral land of the demonic beasts has come to an end. Even though we won't have anything to do with the first ancestral land of the demonic beasts anymore, if the first ancestral land of the demonic beasts needs our help, we won't refuse." Ha 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 ha, what a joke. With the three Yao gods, what can the first ancestral land not solve? King Zhanpong, if you don't pay a price today, you won't be able to leave smoothly. Jin Wuzhong laughed loudly. The Peacock King said, "King Zhanpong, it seems like this battle is unavoidable." The Great Pong King nodded and said, "Then let's fight." Jin Wuzhong knew that the Great Pong King was very strong, so he did not choose to fight alone. He chose to join forces with the other six. The other six experts. Their cultivation levels were unfathomable. There was one golden immortal and 5 quasi-gold immortals. These people, they were the absolute elites of the first ancestral land. The 7 experts joined forces to fight the Great Pong King. After seeing this, the spectators felt that it was inconceivable. The Great Pong King and the others had come from the mortal world. Moreover, they had only been in the Undying Realm for about 150 years. When the Great Pong King first came to the Undying Realm, he had just broken through to the Earth Immortal Realm. He was only at the 3rd firmament of the False Immortal Realm. Now, he could already fight against a Golden Immortal. Countless outstanding cultivators throughout the ages might not be able to complete such a transformation even if they spent their entire lives trying. However, the Great Rock King had completed such a transformation in a short 150 years. It was truly inconceivable and shocking. Rise and Fall of Ages. Yao Gods Descend, Lord of Myriad Yao. Lu Zhanjutian, Finger Slaying Immortals. Invincible 10 Directions. Sweeping through the ages. The 7 experts of the Yao Gods. One after another, they unleashed extremely terrifying divine abilities. Every single one of the divine abilities exuded a suffocating pressure. Even the cultivators who were far away felt their souls trembling when they felt the attacks from the experts of the 7 major demon clans. They felt as if they were nothing more than ants. Although the Great Pong King is very powerful now, I'm afraid that even the Great Pong King won't be able to withstand the combined attacks of the 7 great experts. At this time, a cultivator couldn't help but exclaim. Many people nodded. Obviously, they agreed with this cultivator's words. The Great Pong King was indeed very strong, but the 7 great experts were even stronger. The Great Pong King was fighting against 7 alone. He was at a disadvantage. Therefore, in the eyes of many people, in this battle, there was no suspense at all. The Great Pong King would definitely lose. Just as the attacks of the 7 great experts of the Demon Clan were about to hit the Great Pong King, the Great Pong King suddenly moved. Demons wreaking havoc in the heavens. The Great Pong King spoke. He took a step forward. Behind him, billions of space-time appeared. The billions of space-time seemed to have merged with the Great Pong King. The Great Pong King waved his hand. A terrifying power that was almost indescribable with words instantly surged out from the Great Pong King's palm. That terrifying power surged towards the 7 great experts of the Demon Clan. The attacks of the 7 great experts of the Demon Clan were instantly broken. Then, the 7 great experts of the Demon Clan were sent flying. Suppress. The Great Pong King raised his hand and condensed the word suppress. This was the use of the Great Suppression Technique. The word suppress turned into countless runes and suppressed the 7 great experts of the Demon Clan. Plop, 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 plop. Plop, plop. Chapter 51:10. Great Pong King, you dare to humiliate us like this? We won't rest until you're dead. No, no, no. This can't be real. How could this be? How could the 7 of us be defeated so easily? The demon race experts who were suppressed by the great Pong King all roared furiously, their eyes turning blood red. These people were the decision-makers of the first ancestral land of the demonic beasts. They were the true higher-ups. How honorable were their identities. And now, they were kneeling in front of so many people. They were actually kneeling on the ground. This was a huge blow to them. Great Pong King, you've gone too far. A cold voice sounded. The great Pong King stepped out of the void. Greetings, great Pong King. When they saw the great Pong King appear, many people bowed. The great Pong King nodded. He looked at the great Pong King with a gloomy gaze. I'm just teaching them a lesson. I want them to know that they shouldn't be so cruel to their fellow clansmen. It's better to be kind. Ha ha, said the great Pong Emperor. I'm just teaching them a lesson. It's better to be kind. The great Pong King's expression was cold. Are you saying that they're not kind enough? Senior, what do you think? The great Pong King asked. The great Pong King sighed. There are some things that I don't want to get involved in, but today's matter concerns the dignity of the first ancestral land of the demonic beasts. The great Pong King said, So, Senior, you've never treated us as members of the first ancestral land of the demonic beasts, right? The great Pong King's gaze darkened. Don't try to guess what I'm thinking. In my eyes, you're all equal. The great Pong King laughed self-deprecatingly. He said, Is that so? Is that really so? Senior, don't you know that my nephew and the others are being bullied? It's just a quarrel between youngsters. The great Pong King said, What about when Jian Wushi humiliated my nephew? The great Pong King asked, As a senior, teaching a junior a lesson, can that be considered humiliating? The great Pong King narrowed his eyes. Hearing this, Lin Feng could not help but roll his eyes. Previously, he had a rather good impression of De Pong, but now, this kind of good impression had completely disappeared. In fact, the cause of the whole thing was very simple. Lin Feng, the little Rock King, and the others had been bullied and humiliated. But the people who had bullied and humiliated them weren't strong enough. On the contrary, they had been taught a lesson. Because of that, more and more strong cultivators had been involved. Even the leaders of the first ancestral land of the Bestial clan had been involved. If Chu Feng had been fair, he would have blamed the people who had caused trouble, not the ones who had been bullied and humiliated. The Rock King said, Then what about the battle between me and Jian Wushi? The 7 of them besieged me. Senior, please don't forget that I have only cultivated for a little over 1,000 years. What about them? Which one of them had cultivated for less than 10 million years? So what if they attacked me? Is it like what Senior said, a senior teaching a junior a lesson? The Rock King asked. Hearing the Rock King's words, many people could not help but come back to their senses. Indeed, the Rock King had only cultivated for a little over 1,000 years. What a heaven-defying existence. His age was really too young. No matter how biased the Rock Demon God was, he could not possibly say that the 7 experts had ganged up on the Rock King to teach him a lesson, could he? It was for the Rock King's own good, right? No matter how shameless a person was, they wouldn't be able to say something like that, right? We will leave today. I hope Senior will not stop us, the Rock King said. The Rock King said. The Rock Demon God's face darkened slightly. What if I say no? The Rock King asked. Senior, are you going to force us to stay? The Rock King asked. What happened to you all these years? Your cultivation has risen so quickly. Tell me what happened, and you can leave with the people behind you, the Rock Demon God said. The Rock Demon God said. The eyes of many cultivators in the ancestral land lit up. If they knew this secret, wouldn't they be able to quickly raise their cultivation as well? When they thought of this, many people could not help but become excited. The Rock King said, The Lake of Time, the world where time is reversed. The Rock Demon God's eyes brightened slightly. You're saying that you entered the world where time is reversed from the Lake of Time? Yes. The Rock King nodded. Bring us into that world as well. The Rock Demon God said. I can't do it. The Rock King replied. Why not? The Rock Demon God asked. Only those who can sense that world can enter it. The Rock King said. The Rock Demon God said, Is that so? Are you telling the truth? The Rock King said, Every word is true. The Rock Demon God asked, Could it be that you have no other clues about that world? The Rock King shook his head. No. The Rock Demon God said, Empty words have no proof. Let me search your soul, and I'll be able to confirm if you're lying. Hearing this, the Great Peng King's expression turned ugly. Senior, do you not trust me? Da Peng King asked in a deep voice. Da Peng replied, It's not that I don't trust you. I just want to confirm it. Lin Feng cursed inwardly. This fellow's request was a little too much. If he wanted him to search the Great Rock King's soul memories, he would be able to do so. If this guy had any ill intentions towards the Great Peng King at that time, wouldn't the Great Rock King end up in a miserable state? One must always be on guard against others. The Rock King replied, I refuse. I don't want to target you, but if you don't cooperate, I'll have no choice but to use some forceful methods. Da Peng Demon Celestial Da Peng clearly wanted to suppress Da Peng King, even though he had fallen from the Saint Realm. However, Da Peng Demon God was still in the quasi-sage realm. Such a cultivation was still incomparably terrifying and could not be underestimated. Great Peng King said, If you really want to fight, I can only accompany you. Very good. I want to see what level your cultivation has reached. The Rock Demon God sneered, then walked towards the Great Peng King. With every step the Great Peng Demon God took, his aura increased by a large margin. The Rock Demon God was gathering his strength. Chapter 51:11. Da Peng Demon God's power was successfully condensed. His power was very terrifying. When Da Peng Demon God's power was condensed, Da Peng Demon God's every move seemed to contain the truth of heaven and earth. Da Peng Demon God's casual move could cause the energy of heaven and earth to become chaotic. How powerful was his battle prowess? It was simply unimaginable. Exterminate, Da Peng Demon God said coldly. When his voice fell, he struck out with his palm towards Da Peng King. That palm was surrounded by a terrifying destructive power. That destructive power made people involuntarily give birth to a hair-raising feeling. Strong. It was really too strong. Even though he was only watching the battle. Even though he only sensed the power of Da Peng Demon God's attack. Lin Feng had the feeling that he was insignificant. Just like an ant. It was as if he had seen a giant dragon. The cultivation of the quasi-saint realm was indeed too powerful. The quasi-saint realm was already so powerful. That was a true sage realm cultivation. How powerful was it? In the past, Da Peng Demon God was a true sage realm expert. Cloud Journey 90,000. At this moment, Da Peng King also made his move. He immediately used the Cloud Layer 90,000. Little Rock King had used this divine ability before. This was a divine ability that made the rock race cultivators of the Undying Realm jealous. However, the Great Rock King and the Little Rock King both cultivated this ultimate technique. When Little Rock King used this divine ability, he could unleash an extremely heaven-defying power. Not to mention when Da Peng King used it. When Da Peng King used this divine ability, the power unleashed by this divine ability was even more powerful. 36 pairs of energy wings appeared on Da Peng King's back. At that time, Little Rock King only condensed 6 pairs of energy wings. There was a huge gap between them and the 36 pairs of energy wings that Da Peng King condensed. The main reason was that Da Peng King's cultivation was too powerful. His understanding of the Cloud Journey 90,000 was also not something that Little Rock King could compare to. Therefore, when the two of them both used the Cloud Journey 90,000, the power was naturally incomparable. The 36 pairs of wings quickly swept across the void and instantly swept towards Da Peng Demon God. The next moment, the Great Rock King's attack collided with the Great Rock Demon Celestial's attack. It was as if two worlds had collided. At the spot where the two of them collided, the void quickly split open. Fortunately, when the two of them were fighting, they had deliberately held back their strength and did not let a large amount of their strength leak out. If a large amount of power leaked out, when the time comes, It would be an extremely dangerous thing to do. Who knew how badly the ancestral land of the demonic beasts would be destroyed? The Great Pung King was actually not at a disadvantage in the clash with the Great Pung Demon God. Everyone looked as if they had seen a ghost. Previously, the Great Rock King defeated Jin Wuzhong and the others by himself. Although everyone was shocked, it seemed that they could accept it. But the situation before their eyes was very difficult for them to accept. Jin Wuzhong and the others were strong. But the strongest was Jin Wuzhong. He was only a mid-stage golden immortal cultivator, while De Peng was a quasi-sage. A mid-level golden immortal was as weak as an ant in front of a quasi-sage. There was no comparison at all. However, the Great Rock King was able to block the attack of a quasi-sage. The Great Rock King's combat strength was too heaven-defying. Every single one of them. They all had an inconceivable feeling. But all of this was real. The Great Rock King's strength was indeed shocking. Lin Feng couldn't help but think, was that world where time was reversed really so extraordinary? It actually made the Great Rock King so powerful. Lin Feng immediately thought of the Peacock King. All these years, the Peacock King and the Great Rock King had the same fate. So, did that mean that the Peacock King had the same strength as the Great Rock King? If that was the case, then it would be heaven-defying. This was equivalent to having two more top-notch experts. At that time, the strength of the Sin realm would greatly increase. I didn't expect you to become so powerful. Did your cultivation increase in the world where time was reversed? The Great Rock Demon God narrowed his eyes and looked at the Great Rock King. Even a big shot like him. Now that he saw the Great Rock King block his attack, it was as if a monstrous wave was set off in his heart. Yes. The Great Rock King's answer was very simple. He directly flew towards the Great Rock Demon God and said, "During this period of time, I've cultivated a new sacred art. It just so happens that I want to test the power of this sacred art." Cycle of eras. Suddenly, the Great Rock King let out a long roar, and suddenly, countless mysterious worlds appeared behind him. Each mysterious world seemed to represent an epoch. One era after another was born, and then destroyed one after another. Countless eras were replaced. This was the cycle of eras. This was definitely a peerless absolute art. When the Great Rock Demon God saw the Great Rock King use this absolute art, his expression couldn't help but become extremely serious. An attack that could make an expert of his level feel serious. One could imagine how powerful this attack was. The Great Rock Demon God naturally also had an incomparably powerful sacred art. Facing the Great Rock King's attack, the Great Pung Demon Celestial used a divine ability called Great Pung Controlling Sacred Mountain. The Great Rock Demon God flew out and transformed into a golden-winged rock. On his back, a sacred mountain appeared. That sacred mountain was like Mount Meru in the Western world. Great Rock's sacred mountain, killing billions of immortals. This was a sacred art that had been passed down from ancient times. It wasn't a sacred art that the Great Rock Demon God had created. In fact, no one knew who had created this sacred art, but it had been passed down in the Great Rock Demon God race. The Great Rock Demon God had broken through to the Saint Realm not long ago. He had once used this sacred art to kill a Saint Realm cultivator who was even stronger than him. Now, he once again used this divine ability. Bang! In the next moment, accompanied by the sound of the world collapsing, the Great Rock Demon God and the Great Rock Demon God clashed once again. With the place where they fought as the center, the void began to shatter. Terrifying space-time energy surged out. The surrounding cultivators hurriedly retreated, afraid that they would be swallowed by the space-time energy. Fortunately, everyone retreated quickly enough. Otherwise, it would have been really dangerous. The shattered void closed once again. The Great Rock Demon God and the Great Rock Demon God stood in the void. Both of them were panting heavily. Obviously, the attack just now had consumed a lot of their bodies. Whether it was the Great Rock Demon God or the Great Rock King, the magic power in their bodies had been severely depleted. They're still evenly matched. It's a draw. A cultivator sucked in a breath of cold air and said. Many people couldn't calm down. The Great Rock King had cultivated for 1,000 years, and he was actually able to contend against the Great Rock Demon God who was in the quasi-saint realm. In the future. How could this be? To what extent would the great rock king grow in the future? Chapter 51:12. Good. It's true that the new generation excels the old. To be able to cultivate to this level at your age is truly unimaginable. Depong took a deep breath and said, "It's really a fluke." Depong King said. Depong said, "This is your own opportunity, so you don't need to be humble. There were some misunderstandings between us before, but when a family lives together, it's inevitable that there will be friction, not to mention that there are many different races living together. So, I hope you can understand, and there's no need for you to leave the ancestral land. This is your home in the undying realm." Everyone knew Depong King's words. Actually, it was a disguised form of goodwill. There was nothing they could do about it. After all, Depong King was simply too powerful, and he was so young. Just think about it. He was so young and so powerful. If the ancestral land missed out on such a peerless powerhouse, it would definitely be an extremely vexing matter. Everyone knew this. Depong King also knew this. So, Depong King wanted to turn hostility into friendship. Then, he asked Depong King and the others to stay. When one's strength reached a certain level, even these peerless powerhouses would have to speak humbly. To put it bluntly, the world of cultivators. This was a world where the strong were respected. Without strength, nothing at all. Moreover, they were destined to be bullied and humiliated, with nowhere to seek redress. Depong King said, "Thank you for asking us to stay, Senior. We plan to go out and take a look, so we don't plan to stay in the ancestral land any longer. What I said before still stands. If there's anything you can't solve in the ancestral land, you can still come and find me and the Peacock King. If we can help, we definitely won't refuse." Depong King said unwillingly, "I know that some things that happened before made you quite angry. How about this? I'll get Jin Wuzhong and the others to apologize to you. What do you think?" Depong King said, "Thank you for your kindness, Senior, but there are some things that can't be turned back. I hope you can understand." Depong King then looked at Lin Feng and the others and said, "Let's go." Lin Feng and the others nodded, and then they all flew towards the exit. Depong Demon God's expression was extremely ugly. Letting an expert like Depong King escape was a great loss to the demon race's ancestral land. Furthermore, the Great Peng Yao Celestial felt that the Peacock King might not be any weaker than the Great Peng King. If that was the case, the loss of the ancestral land of the demonic beasts was greater than expected. However, the Great Peng King had made up his mind. There was no turning back. Right now, Demon God Dapeng had a belly full of anger that he had no way of venting. However, he could only watch as the Great Rock King and the others left. Jin Wuzhong and the others lowered their heads, not daring to say a word. They also knew that today's matter must have infuriated Dapeng Demon God. Right now, he didn't dare to offend the Great Rock. Dapeng Demon Celestial glanced coldly at Jin Wuzhong and the others. Jin Wuzhong and the others immediately felt as though there was a dagger at their backs. Things had already come to this. Demon Celestial Dapeng could not be bothered with Jin Wuzhong and the others. He returned to the secluded temple. The heaven-devouring Python Demon God and White Peacock Demon God were both here. What a pity, what a pity, Demon God Dapeng said in annoyance. The heaven-devouring Python Demon God said, "The only fortunate thing is that the Great Rock King and the Peacock King do not seem to hold a grudge against the ancestral land of the demonic beasts. Their personalities are extremely good." The White Peacock Demon God nodded and said, "Yes, their personalities are indeed extremely good. But now that they have left the demonic beast's ancestral land, it seems that some of the bad habits of the demonic beast's ancestral land really need to be rectified. Otherwise, who knows if there will be a second or third person like the Great Rock King, who will be angered to the point of leaving the demonic beast's ancestral land." Demon God Dapeng said, "I think it's better to let the Phoenix Creek Demon Empress take charge of the demonic beast's ancestral land. Her character and way of doing things are still trustworthy. She's a loose cultivator and doesn't have any factions backing her. I'm afraid that the factions below her will make a big fuss." The heaven-devouring Python Demon God frowned slightly. Clearly, He did not think that the Phoenix Creek Demon Empress would take charge of the demonic beast's ancestral land. Demon God Duping said, "The Phoenix Creek Demon Empress is not a simple person, so don't underestimate her." The White Peacock Demon God said, "I also agree to let the Phoenix Creek Demon Empress take charge of the demonic beast's ancestral land. However, the Phoenix Creek Demon Empress is usually in seclusion and does not care about what happens outside. I wonder if she will agree?" "She will." Demon God Duping narrowed his eyes and said, "The Phoenix Creek Demon Empress will definitely want to break through her shackles in the future and take another step forward to become a Saint Realm cultivator. If she takes charge of the demonic beast's ancestral land, her own fate will be linked to the fate of the demonic beast's ancestral land. This is an opportunity for her to break through to the Saint Realm. I'm sure the Phoenix Creek Demon Empress understands this as well. Therefore, she will not refuse to take charge of the demonic beast's ancestral land." Lin Feng and the others naturally did not know what the three demon gods were talking about. Originally, Lin Feng and the others had wanted to pay a visit to the Phoenix Creek Demon Empress. However, after what had happened today, they decided that if they had the chance in the future, they would go visit the Phoenix Creek Demon Empress again. Right now, the most important thing was to leave the demonic beast's ancestral land as soon as possible. This was because there were three demon gods in the demonic beast's ancestral land. Who knew if the three demon gods would suddenly go crazy and attack Lin Feng and the others? If that was the case, it would be terrible. Hua Lingxian naturally understood this very well. She did not mention the matter of visiting her master, the Phoenix Creek Demon Empress. Hua Lingxian sent Lin Feng and the others to the exit. If there's a chance, Fairy can come to the Sin Domain. When the time comes, we will definitely treat Fairy well. Lin Feng said with a smile. "Okay, when there's time, I will definitely visit you," Hua Lingxian said with a smile. She was born beautiful and moving. When she smiled, she was even more charming. There was a kind of immortal aura on her body that looked incomparably pure and otherworldly. After parting with Hua Lingxian, Lin Feng and the others left the demonic beast's first ancestral land. Other than Lin Feng, the rest of the people were somewhat emotional. After all, they had lived here for 150 years and were extremely familiar with everything here. But they had no choice but to leave this place. Naturally, they would feel a lot of emotions. Lin Feng and the others did not stop. They headed straight for the Sin Domain. On the way, Lin Feng received something that shocked him greatly from the Great Rock King. The Great Rock King told Lin Feng that he and the Peacock King had seen the savages from afar in the world where time had reversed. Although they did not know that the savages were Lin Feng's protectors, they knew that Lin Feng had an extraordinary relationship with the savages. Chapter 51:13. Back then, the savage had told Lin Feng, when Lin Feng cultivated to the Emperor Master Realm, he would give him the things that Ancestor Lin Shi had left with him back then. Lin Feng had always wanted to know what Ancestor Lin Shi had left behind. Now, Lin Feng had already come to the Undying Realm, and Lin Feng had already cultivated to the worldly immortal realm. But even so, Lin Feng still hadn't been able to see the savage. In fact, Lin Feng had always been a little worried that something had happened to the savage. Now that he had news of the savage, he could finally relax. Lin Feng didn't mind getting the ancestors' things a little later. Senior Savage was fine. That was the best news. "What is Senior Savage doing inside?" Lin Feng asked curiously. The Great Rock King said, "I'm not sure. We haven't been able to talk to him." Lin Feng nodded. He didn't know where Senior Savage had entered that world. Lin Feng was really curious. It seemed that he wanted to reunite with Senior Savage. Either he patiently waited for Senior Savage to come out of the world where time had reversed, or he waited for an opportunity to enter the world where time had reversed. Then, he would look for an opportunity to meet Senior Savage. Lin Feng knew. The matter of meeting the savage in front of him couldn't be rushed. He needed to be patient and wait for the time to come. On the way back to the Sin Realm, Lin Feng and the others met the first Devil Pagoda. The first Devil Pagoda seemed to be in a hurry as it quickly streaked across the void and flew into the distance. Not long after, Lin Feng saw Li Dian's claws again. Li Dian's claws were chasing after the first Devil Pagoda. This time, there was a good show to watch. He didn't know what the outcome would be. Half a year later, Lin Feng and the others returned to the Sin City. As the central city of the Sin realm, the Sin City was now incomparably lively. The experts of the Sinner's blood came out one after another and came to the Sin City one after another. Now, Lin Feng had left many things to his grandmaster, Wang Mingchuan, to handle. Under Wang Mingchuan's management, everything in Sin City was in good order. Lin Feng introduced his ancestor, Wang Mingchuan, to the Great Rock King and the others. After the two sides got to know each other, Lin Feng brought everyone to rest in the courtyard. Then, someone came to report the situation in Sin City to Lin Feng. During this time, several cultivators in the Sin capital had recovered their strength to the true immortal realm. Those cultivators were the ones Lin Feng had saved from the Palace of White Bones. Back then, they were all immortals. However, after being imprisoned for so many years, his body had been severely damaged. Therefore, their cultivation levels had dropped, but after Lin Feng had saved them, they had become much stronger. Lin Feng was providing them with all kinds of cultivation resources. Lin Feng was also providing them with all kinds of cultivation resources. With the support of those cultivation resources, the cultivator's cultivation base improved by leaps and bounds. In fact, he had even recovered to the true immortal state. This was truly something worth celebrating. These cultivators were different from ordinary cultivators. It was extremely difficult for ordinary cultivators to break through to the true immortal realm. But these cultivators were not like that. It was easy for them to break through to the true immortal realm. The reason was that they had already broken through to that realm. For them, there was no barrier to breaking through to the true immortal realm. That was why it was easy for them to break through to the true immortal realm. Lin Feng asked around. There were as many as 9 true immortal cultivators in the Sin realm. Although he didn't like the number 9, Lin Feng was still very happy to know that there were so many true immortals in the Sin realm. Of course, this didn't include Lin Feng's grandmaster, Wang Mingchuan. Lin Feng was also not included. In addition, Lin Feng also had 2 true immortal evil godstone statues. If they were included, there should be 13 true immortal experts in the Sin realm. Now, the Great Rock King and the others had followed Lin Feng to the Sin realm. The Great Rock King and the Peacock King's cultivation were naturally strong. They could even fight against a quasi-sage. In addition, although the Little Rock King and the Fire Qilin were still a distance away from the true immortal realm, their innate talents were strong, so they could fight against some early-stage true immortals. As for Feng Yaorao, Little Moon's cultivation was still a distance away from the Fire Qilin and the Little Rock King. As for Princess Shuiyao, actually, the one Lin Feng couldn't see through the most was Princess Shuiyao. Back then, Lin Feng was still a young man and had yet to grow up. Princess Shuiyao was already the princess respected by the demon race. Moreover, Princess Shuiyao had also obtained the Demon Emperor's sacred embryo. As a result, Princess Shuiyao's cultivation was definitely extremely tyrannical, but Princess Shuiyao had never made a move, so it was hard to determine what level her cultivation was at. Lin Feng felt that she might be even stronger than the Little Rock King. Now, the peak battle strength of the Sin realm was extremely powerful, even if the experts of many large factions appeared one after another. But there was definitely no faction that dared to say that they could suppress the Sin realm. The Sin realm's development was extremely good, so Lin Feng was naturally very happy. After Lin Feng dismissed his subordinates, he went back to rest. After spending an unforgettable night with Feng Yaorao, Lin Feng still had many things to take care of. First, he still hadn't figured out what the 3 items he had obtained from the stone tower were. Second, Lin Feng's meridian diagram had already opened the first gate of the 4 extremes. Now, he could explore his own meridian diagram and tap into his body's potential. Third, Lin Feng needed to consolidate his cultivation level, his celestial scriptures, and his godly skills. Fourth, Lin Feng still needed to continue familiarizing himself with the Arrow War Spear. Right now, he was still unable to use the Arrow War Spear with ease. The main reason was because he wasn't familiar with it. In addition, Lin Feng wanted to try and see if he could obtain the Arrow War Spear's matching spear technique. In order to unleash the strongest power of the Arrow War Spear, he had to obtain the matching spear technique. Fifth, there was still no news of the 3 treasures that could cure Long Zixi poison. Naturally, Lin Feng was extremely worried. Therefore, Lin Feng needed to continue sending people to scout for information. He couldn't just place his hopes on the Bai Shao Pavilion or some large trading companies. 6. He wondered how the Empress was doing now. Lin Feng planned to send people to scout for news of the Empress. Lin Feng hadn't seen the peerless Empress for a few years. He really missed the Empress a lot. Besides, Lin Feng still wanted to scout for news of some people. Of course, there were also some things that Lin Feng planned to find time to complete. For example, finding the Emperor Brush, the Sage Master's Holy Scripture, and so on. Chapter 51:14. Lin Feng checked the 3 balls of light. Immediately, he realized that the energy of the 3 balls of light had been restrained by a lot. Seeing this, Lin Feng revealed a look of joy. It seemed that the situation was not bad. Soon, the energy would be completely restrained. At that time, he would know what the 3 items were. They were treasures left behind by the evil ancestor. They were definitely extraordinary. When Lin Feng was about to go into closed-door cultivation, a servant girl came to report that someone had come to visit Lin Feng. The other party said that she was called Shui Uxian. This made Lin Feng a little surprised, because he never thought that Shui Uxian would actually come to the Xin domain. In reality, Lin Feng and Shui Uxian's relationship had gradually drifted apart. But since Shui Uxian came to find him, there might be something, right? Lin Feng planned to meet Shui Uxian, so he got someone to bring Shui Uxian to the guest hall. Lin Feng waited for a moment, then walked towards the guest hall. Lin Feng saw the beauty standing in the guest hall. As a fox spirit, Shui Uxian's entire body naturally emitted a charming aura that made people's hearts palpitate. She was extremely charming. It was talking about a woman like Shui Uxian. However, Lin Feng was used to seeing all kinds of beauties, so when he saw Shui Uxian, he was able to look at her like an ordinary person. At that moment, Lin Feng's immunity to beautiful women was quite high. Seeing that Lin Feng had arrived, Shui Uxian revealed an extremely excited expression. She bowed to Lin Feng. "Fairy, you don't have to be so polite. Quickly get up," Lin Feng said. Shui Uxian stood up. Then, she looked at Lin Feng faintly. She said, "Young master used to call me Uxian. Now, has young master become so distant from me?" As Shui Uxian spoke, she looked as if she was about to cry. Seeing Shui Uxian's sad look, Lin Feng could not help but laugh bitterly. If someone who didn't know Shui Uxian, they would think that he had done something outrageous to Shui Uxian. But in reality, there was nothing between him and Shui Uxian. Although, Lin Feng had once been slightly moved by Shui Uxian. Although, in the past, the two of them had some ambiguous relationship, but that was all in the past. Lin Feng replied, "It's not that I'm estranged from you, but calling you Uxian is a bit too intimate. I don't mind, but I'm worried that it'll damage your reputation." Shui Uxian sighed and said, "Sir, you're just trying to comfort me? I know, back then, I said some things that made you unhappy. I haven't been able to see you for a long time, and I've been missing you a lot. I realized how wrong I was back then, so I gave up everything in Western Sky City and came to the Xin region. I want to explain everything to you, and I hope you'll like me again. I'm willing to serve you forever. As long as you don't let me leave, I'm willing to be your servant," said Lin Feng. After hearing Shui Uxian's words, Lin Feng was surprised, because he never thought that Shui Uxian would say such bold words. This was not far. She sent herself over to be his concubine. Lin Feng was in a difficult position. Now, if Lin Feng wanted to find a woman, he would not only look at her beauty. He also needed a feeling. To put it in simple terms, it was the feeling of being moved. Once, Lin Feng had that feeling towards Shui Uxian, but now, he no longer had that feeling. Thus, facing Shui Uxian's sudden confession, Lin Feng did not immediately agree. "Does young master not like Uxian anymore?" Shui Uxian immediately started crying. Her tear-stained face was truly pitiful. It had to be said, a woman's beauty was her greatest advantage. Shui Uxian was too beautiful, and seeing her cry so sadly, even Lin Feng's heart ached. If such a beautiful woman was done by another man, this was truly a rather vexing matter. Why not keep her in his harem? Lin Feng thought about whether he would be able to have a harem of 3,000 beauties one day. He kept Shui Yuexin. It was also a good choice. Lin Feng said, Yuexin, you can stay here in the future and cultivate well in Sin City. Hearing Lin Feng say this, Shui Yuexin immediately became happy. Then she threw herself into his arms. Lin Feng asked someone to help arrange a place for Shui Yuexin to rest. Then, Lin Feng returned to his residence to cultivate in seclusion. Lin Feng entered the time-space. He spent 3 years to sort out the various sacred arts. At the same time, he continued to study the various immortal scriptures and some top sacred arts. Lin Feng's gains from this cultivation were huge. Because his realm was becoming more and more stable, Lin Feng felt that he was not far from breaking through. Lin Feng wanted to break through to the Earth Immortal Realm quickly. With his cultivation, once he broke through to the Earth Immortal Realm, his battle strength would definitely increase greatly. Lin Feng used his spiritual will to explore the 3 balls of light. He was pleasantly surprised to find that the energy of the 3 balls of light had completely disappeared. The 3 things inside. They also appeared in Lin Feng's vision. The first thing, it was a skull bracelet. That skull bracelet was made up of 18 skulls strung together. Lin Feng did not know what race those skulls belonged to. Each skull was very small, about the size of a thumb. Lin Feng studied it and found that those skulls were not originally this size. He guessed that those skulls were bigger. The reason why they were so big now was because those skulls had been refined by someone. That was why they were small now. That skull bracelet should be a powerful magic treasure. Lin Feng tried to refine the skull bracelet, but did not succeed. This made him very surprised. There were very few magic treasures that could not be refined, but this skull bracelet could not be refined. It should be an extraordinary treasure. Lin Feng looked at the second thing. The second thing was a map. A very simple map. Lin Feng opened the map and found that it was empty. There was nothing. It was an extremely strange map. Where are the words and pictures on it? Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter, could it be hidden? Where does the map lead to? Why did someone go to so much trouble to create a map like this? After muttering to himself, Lin Feng looked at the third thing. Chapter 51:15. Martial Talisman. Lin Feng was very surprised. It was a purple martial talisman. Lin Feng didn't know what kind of martial talisman it was. Martial talismans were very important to human cultivators because they could help human cultivators complete the evolution and transformation of their martial spirits. For example, Lin Feng was now to be able to condense 6 devouring martial spirits. 6 devouring martial spirits meant that Lin Feng could use 6 times the battle strength of the dragon elephant arm. At the same time, the devouring black hole formed by the 6 devouring martial spirits also played a crucial role in the execution of some of the sovereign emperor clan's inheritances. Previously, Lin Feng had obtained 2 Xian Dao martial talismans. In fact, these martial talismans were imprinted with some ancient starry sky maps. When they reached a certain range, they could sense each other. However, if they were too far away, they wouldn't be able to sense each other. 3 Xian Dao martial talismans. With one more, Lin Feng would have collected all of them. Lin Feng had already obtained the map of the 3rd Xian Dao martial talisman. It was just that he didn't have the time to find the 3rd Xian Dao martial talisman. Previously, Lin Feng had studied the whereabouts of the 3rd Xian Dao martial talisman. The place indicated on the map was a certain place in the Undying Realm. However, it was hard to say where exactly in the Undying Realm. The markings on the map weren't particularly obvious, but sooner or later, he would find some clues. Lin Feng had no doubts about that. Now, obtaining a new martial talisman made Lin Feng very happy. When he found all the Xian Dao martial talismans, he would see if he could evolve the 6 devouring martial spirits into 7. If it could evolve, it would be a great thing. After the evolution was successful, he would start to collect the other martial talismans. After collecting all of them, he would be able to evolve his martial spirits. Of course, dreams were beautiful, but it was hard to say if it could be realized in reality. Lin Feng naturally had to work hard to make his dream a reality. His divine sense invaded the new martial talisman, brilliant purple martial talisman. After sensing it, Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. This martial talisman was called Brilliant Purple Martial Talisman, and it was one of the higher-ranked ones. Lin Feng put the talisman away. Then, Lin Feng studied the mysterious map for a while. However, he still couldn't figure out anything about it. Therefore, Lin Feng put away the map. He would study it when he had time in the future. In the end, Lin Feng's gaze landed on the skeleton bracelet. The skeletal bracelet should have been refined by a devil Dao cultivator or an evil Dao cultivator. Righteous Dao cultivators rarely refined such magic treasures. Previously, Lin Feng had tried to refine the skull bracelet, but he had failed. Lin Feng decided to continue refining the skull bracelet. He didn't believe it. Unable to refine the skeleton bracelet, a powerful magical power enveloped the skeletal bracelet. That magical power. He tried to invade the skeleton bracelet. In the beginning, the skull bracelet had blocked all the magic power from entering his body. However, as time passed, some magic power began to flow into the skeletal bracelet. 2 hours later, the defensive properties of the skull bracelet began to weaken significantly. More and more magic power surged into the skull bracelet. In the end, the skull bracelet was successfully refined by Lin Feng. Lin Feng's divine sense moved, and the skull bracelet quickly grew bigger. Screech! The 18 skulls let out a shrill cry at the same time. When he heard the cry of the 18 skulls, Lin Feng felt like his head was about to split open. His expression suddenly changed. Lin Feng quickly withdrew all the magic power. Only then did the skull bracelet shrink. Then it fell back into Lin Feng's hands. Lin Feng couldn't help but take a deep breath. His face was still very pale. Fortunately, this magic treasure was his, so it wouldn't hurt him as much as it would others. If there were other people in this place, Lin Feng was suspicious. Would the other party's soul be instantly destroyed? It can even affect me, the owner. What a terrifying treasure. Lin Feng looked at the skull bracelet in his hand and couldn't help but mutter to himself. The skull bracelet, this kind of soul attack magic treasure, was still relatively rare. Especially powerful soul attack magic treasures, it was even rarer. At the critical moment, the skull bracelet could definitely play an extremely important role. Just think about it. Just when the two of them were locked in a battle, Lin Feng suddenly took out the skull bracelet. Then, the skull bracelet let out a sharp ear-piercing sound. When the sound of the skull bracelet came out, it directly caught the other party off guard. The other party might not be able to resist the soul attack of the skull bracelet and be seriously injured. At that time, the battle might be decided in an instant. After thinking about it, Lin Feng's mouth couldn't help but reveal a smile. After putting away the skull bracelet, Lin Feng began to explore his meridian network. His divine sense entered the gate of the four extremes. When Lin Feng's divine sense entered, suddenly, Lin Feng found that he was in a starry sky world. This starry sky world, vast and boundless. Those stars were shrouded in endless mystery. There seemed to be a special connection between many stars. Is this the human meridian network map? Lin Feng's face couldn't help but reveal a shocked expression. The human meridian network map was very special. It would construct the human body into a starry sky world. Before, Lin Feng didn't know much about the human meridian network map. Now that he began to explore the human meridian network map, he discovered the wonders of the human meridian network map. This was a deep level of cultivation. It was a deep level of development of the body. If the development was successful, it would naturally give Lin Feng endless benefits. Lin Feng flew to the first star, but he found that there was an invisible force preventing Lin Feng from getting closer. He tried again and again, but it ended in failure. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel a little depressed. Was the human meridian network map so difficult to explore? This time, he explored the human meridian network map. Lin Feng ended in failure, but it wasn't without gains. For example, Lin Feng had a deeper understanding of the human meridian network map. Another example, Lin Feng already had some experience. Summing up experience and failure, sooner or later, he would succeed. Failure is the mother of success. This sentence, it inspired countless cultivators. Lin Feng naturally heard of this sentence. After Lin Feng came out of seclusion, the great elder in charge of the mission hall, Yu Qingmin, came to visit Lin Feng. Yu Qingmin was of the sinner's bloodline, and he was a sinner's blood cultivator of the human race, with a cultivation of the sky immortal realm and a wide network. Furthermore, he was a smooth and slick person, managing the mission hall in an orderly manner. Previously, Lin Feng had asked Yu Qingmin to help him find information about the three heavenly treasures: snow dragon grass, crescent moon grass, and pure clean water. He didn't know if Yu Qingmin had found any information. Lin Feng summoned Yu Qingmin in the living room. After seeing Lin Feng, Yu Qingmin revealed a respectful expression. Although Lin Feng was young, his cultivation was unfathomable. As subordinates, they were naturally in awe of Lin Feng. Elder Yu, have you found any information about the snow dragon grass, crescent moon grass, and pure clean water? Lin Feng could not help but ask. Yu Qingmin said, Young master, I have not found any information about the snow dragon grass and crescent moon grass, but I have some information about the pure clean water. When Lin Feng heard that, he was overjoyed. Those three treasures were extremely rare. Being able to find one of them was already extremely difficult. Everything was difficult at the beginning. Lin Feng believed it. Chapter 51:16. Lin Feng asked, Where's the pure clean water? Yu Qingmin replied, It's in the Tian family of the Tianshui region. I heard that the Tian family of the Tianshui region is planning to auction off their pure clean water. This might be a good opportunity. Oh, there's such a thing? Lin Feng couldn't help but be surprised. Yu Qingmin said, Yes, the Tian family of the Tianshui region is one of the 5 major powers of the Tianshui region. They control 87 ancient cities, and no one knows where their ancestral land is. However, some of their clansmen live in Tianshui City. Every 10,000 years, the Tian family of the Tianshui region will hold a grand auction. During the auction, many good things will be put up for auction. In order to attract a large number of cultivators, the Tian family of the Tianshui region will take out some top-notch natural treasures to advertise. This time, the pure clean water is one of the treasures that the Tian family of the Tianshui region is promoting. Young master, you can participate in the auction and bid for the pure clean water. If you can befriend the Tian family of the Tianshui region, that would be even better, because the Tian family of the Tianshui region is a special power. Snow dragon grass and crescent moon grass are things that the Tian family of the Tianshui region might be able to take out. Even if the Tian family of the Tianshui region can't take them out, they might have some special channels to find them. After hearing Yu Qingmin's words, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. If that was the case, it seemed that the Tianshui region was imperative. Lin Feng asked Yu Qingmin to leave. He planned to arrange things in Sin City before heading to the Tianshui region. Finding the 3 natural treasures was an urgent matter, and Lin Feng didn't want to waste time. Lin Feng ordered people to summon the higher-ups of the Sin realm and gave them some instructions. Lin Feng then set off for the Tianshui region. The Great Pong King, the Peacock King, the Fire Qilin, the Little Pong King, Feng Yaorao, and the others were all in seclusion. Du Zhu, the evil sovereign holy sage, and the others were also in seclusion. Lin Feng didn't see them when he returned this time. Therefore, Lin Feng decided to go to the Tianshui region alone. He had just left the city of Sin. Shui Yuexin chased after him. Why did you come out? Lin Feng looked at Shui Yuexin and asked. The journey to the Tianshui region is long. How can there be no one by your side to take care of you? I want to stay by your side and take good care of you, Shui Yuexin said sweetly. Hearing her voice made one's bones go soft. Lin Feng replied, There's no need for that. You can stay in Sin City and cultivate. No, take me with you. I'll serve you well on the way. I'll definitely let you live a carefree life. That way, you won't feel lonely on the way, Shui Yuexin said ambiguously. Lin Feng was a little moved by Shui Yuexin's words. If he brought this big beauty with him to the Tianshui domain, then he would be able to take her with him. There were many things that could be done. Indeed, she wouldn't be lonely on the road. However, Lin Feng thought about it. He still rejected Shui Yuexin's tempting suggestion. This trip to the Tianshui region was to find treasures that could save people. It was not for enjoyment. On the way, He could cultivate in seclusion. Bringing along such a delicate beauty like Shui Yuexin would tease him from time to time. How could he still have the mood to cultivate? Lin Feng said, "I've made up my mind. So, you should go back." Seeing Lin Feng's insistence, Shui Yuexin could only nod her head. She said, "Then Yuexin will wait for your return in Sin City. When you return, Yuexin will go to your residence to serve you." After hearing Shui Yuexin's words, Lin Feng's heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. If the fox spirit really went to seduce people, it was simply enough to take a person's life. "All right, wait for me to return," Lin Feng said with a smile. Then he left. Shui Yuexin narrowed her eyes as she looked at Lin Feng, who was gradually disappearing into the distance. The corner of her mouth could not help but curl up into a sneer. And Lin Feng, he was destined to be unable to see Shui Yuexin's cold smile. The Tianshui region was relatively far away from the Xin domain, separated by the distance of 3 regions. Lin Feng planned to take the teleportation array to the Tianshui region. There was no teleportation array to the Tianshui region in the Xin domain, but there was one in the weak water region. So Lin Feng first came to the weak water region in the southwest region of the Xin domain. He planned to take the teleportation array to the Tianshui region in the weak water ancient city. If he took the teleportation array, he could save more than a year's time. It was a pretty good choice. However, the price of this long-distance teleportation was extremely high. It required 10,000 immortal stones each time, which was not something that anyone could afford. Of course, for Lin Feng, these immortal stones were naturally nothing. The reason why the cost of taking the teleportation array in the Undying Realm was so high was because it was extremely difficult to construct a teleportation array in the Undying Realm. After all, the Undying Realm's space laws were not comparable to the mortal world. The stronger the space laws were, the more difficult it was to construct a teleportation array. For example, the Undying Realm was like this. So, among the 72 regions of the Undying Realm, many of them only had teleportation arrays within the region and no teleportation arrays outside the region. And even if there was a teleportation array outside the region, basically, there was only one large-scale teleportation array. It was very rare for a region to have 2 or 3 teleportation arrays. There was only one teleportation array in the weak water region. The Spirit Array Master adjusted the coordinates on the teleportation array and teleported the cultivators into one space-time tunnel after another. Since there was only one teleportation array, the cultivators would go to different places. Therefore, to take the teleportation array, one would often have to wait in line for a long time. Lin Feng was rather lucky. On the second day of his arrival, the teleportation array to the Tianshui region opened. After Lin Feng paid the immortal stones, he entered the teleportation array with thousands of cultivators. When the teleportation array was activated, Lin Feng and the others were teleported into the space-time tunnel. After arriving at the space-time tunnel, one could see many people appearing out of thin air and entering the space-time tunnel. Those cultivators were basically teleported in from other regions and were also heading to the Tianshui region. Some people flew in the space-time tunnel, while others took out some flying-type magic treasures. Generally speaking, taking out flying-type magic treasures could save a cultivator's magic power and save a lot of time. Lin Feng took out the Xinyuan Ancient Star City. The Xinyuan Ancient Star City could jump through the void, so its speed was extremely fast. Chapter 51:17. Along the way, some cultivators wanted to rest on Lin Feng's Xinyuan Ancient Starry Sky ship. Lin Feng did not refuse. He removed the restrictions and let the cultivators board the ship to rest. The cultivators were quite tactful. After boarding the ship, they rested on the deck. However, they did not enter the cabin. Most of the time, Lin Feng cultivated in seclusion in the Xinyuan Ancient Starry Sky ship. Sometimes, he would walk out of the Ancient Starry Sky ship and talk to the cultivators resting on the deck. A few good-looking female cultivators felt that Lin Feng was not an ordinary person. Therefore, they came forward to get close to him. Moreover, they said some words to seduce Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng pretended not to hear them. On this day, Lin Feng walked out of the cabin and heard a group of cultivators discussing a diviner. This piqued Lin Feng's interest. Lin Feng asked a few people and found out that a divine diviner had appeared in the Starry Sky ship channel. It was said that this divine diviner was an extremely beautiful woman. This woman's methods were very powerful. She claimed to be from the Nine Heavens Sacred Tao Hall. The current leader of the Nine Heavens Sacred Tao Hall was her master. This woman claimed that there was nothing she could not calculate. Therefore, many people came to her for divination. Lin Feng asked what kind of power the Nine Heavens Sacred Tao Hall was. It sounded like a Taoist power. However, Lin Feng did not know whether it was Lin Feng or not. However, these cultivators did not know what kind of power the Nine Heavens Sacred Tao Hall was. They had never heard of it before. Is it really accurate? Lin Feng could not help but ask curiously. In fact, Lin Feng had studied the Xiantian 8 trigrams before. The Xiantian 8 trigrams could deduce many things. However, Lin Feng was not particularly proficient in it. If he was proficient, he might be able to deduce the location of the snow dragon grass and crescent moon grass. Previously, Lin Feng had asked Great Immortal Sage Martin to help him deduce the location of the snow dragon grass, crescent moon grass, and spotless clean aqua. However, this guy said that he could not deduce the whereabouts of the heaven and earth treasure. This made Lin Feng feel rather helpless. Furthermore, the great sage Martin had been reminding him that Lin Feng still owed him something. Of course, Lin Feng had not forgotten that when he had asked Great Immortal Sacred Martin to help him divine the location of the Little Rock King, Great Immortal Sacred Martin had asked for something like the profound yellow origin stone. Lin Feng was temporarily unable to take it out, but he had promised to help him find it in the future. Great Immortal Sacred Martin had never forgotten this matter and had constantly reminded Lin Feng. If he could find it, Lin Feng would have already given it to this guy. That way, he wouldn't have to continue listening to this guy's chatter. His divination technique was unable to divine the whereabouts of the snow dragon grass and the crescent moon grass. Even the great immortal divine Martin could not help him. Perhaps he could ask the oracle for help? However, there were too many swindlers these days. Many people were swindlers. Lin Feng didn't know if the divine mathematician was really capable, or if he was just a big swindler who specialized in deceiving people. At this moment, a cultivator said, "His divination is quite accurate." Someone asked him to divine some things, but before the other party could say anything, the divine mathematician even said the other party's name, age, which faction he came from, and what he wanted to divine. Damn, he's so powerful? Could it be a scam? Lin Feng could not help but ask, because it did sound like a scam. It's not a scam. It's because a cultivator I know tried it before, and the divine mathematician actually managed to divine everything. The cultivator continued. Lin Feng could not help but rub his chin. Could it be that he had really met a powerful person with a special ability? The methods of Taoism were indeed extremely extraordinary. If one could cultivate some of the methods of Taoism to a relatively high level, they would be able to grasp many unimaginable abilities. Therefore, that divine mathematician, it was very likely that he had the ability to reach the heavens. Sir, did you not find the divine mathematician to test him? Lin Feng asked. I wanted to give it a try, but the divine mathematician had her own rules. She said that she would divine at most 3 people a day, so I did not get a chance. Later, when I tried to find her again, she was nowhere to be found. The cultivator said, That's really a pity. Lin Feng said. The ancient spaceship Xianyuan continued to fly through the space-time tunnel. Lin Feng was still wondering if he would be able to meet the divine mathematician. However, things did not go as he wished. Along the way, he did not see the divine mathematician. Half a month later, Lin Feng flew out of the space-time tunnel. The place they appeared in was called Sky Snow City. This place was relatively cold and covered in snow all year round. Many cultivators came out of the teleportation array one after another. Lin Feng planned to find a place to stay first. After calculating the time, he realized that there was still some time before the auction. Many beautiful women gathered outside the teleportation square to solicit customers. Most of them were sent by the inns to solicit customers. The competition between the inns in these ancient cities was extremely high. A young man in his 20s came to Lin Feng's side. Lin Feng suddenly thought of the time when he was in his 20s. He really missed that time. Big brother, do you need a place to stay? Our place is different from ordinary inns. Our environment is very elegant and quiet. Moreover, there are no female cultivators who keep trying to sell themselves. It's definitely an excellent place to rest. I would not casually strike up a conversation with ordinary people. However, I can tell that Big Brother is a noble person and would definitely not want to be disturbed by those ordinary inns. That's why I came to invite Big Brother to stay at our place. The young cultivator said. Actually, Lin Feng did not like to rest in inns because there would always be female cultivators knocking on the door. Lin Feng was not interested in those female cultivators. Of course, he would not rashly criticize those female cultivators. Everyone had their own way of life. Those female cultivators chose to sell their bodies in exchange for immortal stones. Although it was rather shameful, it was their own choice. It was because of this market that their profession had appeared. Lin Feng asked, "Is the environment very good? You really won't be disturbed?" The young cultivator said, "Of course. I guarantee that Big Brother will be satisfied." "Take me to have a look," Lin Feng said. "Big Brother, please come with me." The young cultivator immediately revealed a smile. Lin Feng followed him. On the way, he chatted with the young cultivator and found out that the young cultivator was called Wu Kuan. He was 26 years old this year. He had already broken through to the Godfire realm. Chapter 51:18. Lin Feng followed Wu Kuan to the residence that Wu Kuan had mentioned. It was a rather large courtyard, although it looked a little dilapidated. However, it was very clean. The environment inside was just as Wu Kuan had said, quiet and secluded. It was a very good place to rest, and there was no need to worry about being disturbed. Lin Feng followed Wu Kuan inside, but he didn't see anyone for a long time. Lin Feng couldn't help but feel apprehensive. Wasn't this place a little too quiet? Could it be that I'm the only guest here? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. Of course not. There are still 4 people living here, Wu Kuan said. 4 people. Lin Feng nodded and didn't ask any more questions. After passing through the front courtyard, they arrived at a courtyard at the back. Every so often, there would be a separate courtyard. Wu Kuan said, "Most of the courtyards in this courtyard are empty. Big Brother, you can choose one." "I'll take that one." Lin Feng pointed at one of the courtyards in front of them. The words Pavilion of Tang Immortals were written on it. This name was rather imposing. All right. Wu Kuan nodded and brought Lin Feng to the Pavilion of Tang Immortals. He opened the courtyard door. Lin Feng looked around and found that it was very clean. Lin Feng was very satisfied with the environment here. "How much do you charge?" Lin Feng asked. 100 immortal stones a day. Wu Kuan said, "I'll be staying for about 3 days." Lin Feng said, "The deposit is 100 immortal stones. If you stay for 3 days, it'll be 400 immortal stones in total. I'll return the deposit to you when I leave." Wu Kuan said. Lin Feng nodded and took out 400 immortal stones, giving them to Wu Kuan. He didn't care about the deposit. It didn't matter if he took it or not. Wu Kuan happily accepted the 400 immortal stones. Then, he said, "Big Brother, you should rest. I won't disturb you." "Okay." Lin Feng nodded. Before leaving, Wu Kuan said, "However, I have to remind you of something." "What is it?" Lin Feng asked. "After midnight, we have a curfew here, so don't go out after midnight." Wu Kuan reminded. "No problem," Lin Feng replied. Only then did Wu Kuan leave. Lin Feng closed the courtyard door and returned to his room to rest. Boom, boom, boom. In the evening, Lin Feng heard a loud noise, and then the whole house shook violently. Lin Feng was shocked. He thought there was an earthquake. Lin Feng quickly got up. Then, he went outside. He looked towards a courtyard a few hundred meters to his left and saw smoke and dust billowing there. He had no idea what had happened. Lin Feng walked over. He found that the gate to the courtyard had been blown open. A white-haired old man was lying on the ground, panting heavily. "Uncle, are you all right?" Lin Feng walked in and looked at the old man. "There's no reason for it to fail. There's no reason for it to fail." The old man ignored Lin Feng and kept murmuring to himself. At that moment, more people were attracted by the sound of the explosion. Apart from Wu Kuan, there was also an old man smoking a pipe. One of them was a little girl who looked about 7 or 8 years old. The other was a delicate-looking young lady, and the last one was an old witch in a black robe who was floating in the air. The old man frowned and said, "Old bastard, didn't I tell you to set up a defensive barrier before the experiment? My courtyard is about to be destroyed by you, old bastard. Even if you sell yourself, you won't be able to pay for it." After hearing the old man's words, Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that the old man should be the owner of this place. Lin Feng had heard Wu Kuan mention that there was only him and his master here. The others were all guests. The old man was obviously Wu Kuan's master. Cough, cough, Lao Wu too. Isn't it just a courtyard? Your broken place doesn't have many guests anyway. After I finish researching the ultimate weapon, not to mention a courtyard, even if you give me 10,000 courtyards, I won't even blink an eye. The old man sat up and said, he should be an alchemist, and he was probably tinkering with some strange things. Alchemists were all madmen of invention. Maybe they would really tinker with some amazing things at some point in time. Damn, old bastard. You've already owed me more than 30 years of rent. How many immortal stones is that? Lao Wu Tu said angrily. It's only been 30 years. Why are you so anxious? My ultimate weapon will be finished soon. When the time comes, I'll pay you double. The old man continued with a solemn and confident look on his face. Lin Feng couldn't help but be curious. He didn't know what the old man's ultimate weapon was. Let's disperse. There's nothing interesting to see here. The old man stood up and said. The surrounding people dispersed one after another. Before Lao Wu Tu left, he scolded, "Old bastard, I'll give you 1 more month. If you can't pay the rent, I'll kick you out." After saying that, Lao Wu Tu and Wu Kuan left together. The old man pursed his lips. He didn't take Lao Wu Tu's words to heart. He glanced at Lin Feng and said angrily, "Why aren't you leaving? Go away as far as you can. Don't be an eyesore here." Lin Feng said, "I want to talk about a cooperation with you." Cooperation? What kind of cooperation? The old man looked at Lin Feng and asked in surprise, "I want to buy your ultimate weapon," Lin Feng said. When the old man heard this, he immediately became happy and said, "It seems like you have good taste. Let's talk inside. I'll make you a cup of tea." Lin Feng nodded. He followed the old man into the room. There were many things piled up in the room. It was extremely dirty, and there was nowhere to put his feet. The old man picked up a kettle from the table and found a black cup. He poured Lin Feng a cup of cold spirit tea that had been brewed at an unknown time. Lin Feng was speechless when he saw the black liquid floating on top of the tea. Was this even drinkable? He wouldn't be poisoned to death, right? Lin Feng placed the cup on the table and smiled. "Thank you for your hospitality, old man. Now, let's talk about the cooperation. My name is Ji. How should I address you?" The old man smiled and said, "Hee, don't call me old man. I'm actually very young. I just grew up a little too quickly." When he heard the old man's words, Lin Feng almost choked. Chapter 51:19. At this moment, the old man introduced himself. "My name is Paying Jun. We're about the same age, so I'll call you Brother Ji from now on, and you can call me Brothering Jun." Lin Feng couldn't help but roll his eyes. He had seen too many shameless people, such as the Fire Qilin, Du Zhu, and the immeasurable Taoist. Each of them was thicker than the last. However, compared to this old man in front of him, the difference was like heaven and earth. Lin Feng said, "I'll call you Brother Pei." Paying Jun said, "That's fine too. As long as you like it, you can call me anything." Lin Feng asked, "Brother Pei, what exactly are you researching?" Paying Jun immediately said, "I'm researching an extremely powerful item called the 9 Heavenly Lightning Source Pearl." 9 Heavenly Lightning Source Pearl? What's that? Lin Feng asked in surprise. "It's a rather special treasure, and I call it a bomb." Question mark. Bomb? Lin Feng couldn't help but be slightly surprised. This name, it sounded quite domineering. "Is this item very powerful?" Lin Feng asked. "Of course it's powerful. You saw the explosion just now, right? Actually, I've already set up many restrictions, but they were still destroyed. You have to know that the sample I tested just now was extremely small. I'm looking for a perfect ratio. Once the ratio is successful, The 9 heavenly lightning source pearl won't explode. Pei Jun said. Lin Feng suddenly thought of the mother-child dual lightning pearls he had obtained before. The mother-child dual lightning pearls also released their power through explosion. However, the power of the mother-child dual lightning pearls could only injure Emperor Realm cultivators at most. Different bombs. The materials that were fused and the refining methods were different. Therefore, after the research was completed, the power would naturally be different as well. Lin Feng asked, "Brother, if the 9 heavenly lightning source pearl you mentioned was successfully researched, how powerful would it be?" Pei Jun smiled and said, "Hee, normally, a 9 heavenly thunder source pearl can easily injure a virtual immortal." Hearing this, Lin Feng couldn't help but jump in fright. F***CK. Are you bragging? It's just a lightning bead. How can it possess such terrifying power? Lin Feng said. This was because Bei Ingjuan's words sounded unbelievable. Everyone could feel it. That was impossible. Pei Jun said seriously, "Of course I'm not bragging. You have no idea how rich I used to be. I became a pauper because I wanted to research the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl, because the materials needed to refine the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl are too precious. Other than those precious materials, I also need to go to the Sea of Thunder to collect the power of the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl. That is an extremely dangerous place. Entering it is almost certain death. With so many precious materials and the power of the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl, it is natural that the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl can injure a true immortal realm cultivator." After hearing Pei Ingjuan's explanation, Lin Feng believed what Pei Ingjun had said before. The 9 heavenly thunder source pearl could really injure a true immortal realm expert. If one 9 heavenly thunder source pearl was already so powerful, then, if 10, 100, or even 509 heavenly thunder source pearls were released together, how powerful would it be? Think about it. It made one's hair stand on end. Lin Feng waved his hand and many rivers of immortal stones flew out. The rivers of immortal stones were all sealed by Lin Feng. There were a total of 10 rivers of immortal stones. Each river of immortal stones was formed by 100 million immortal stones. The 10 rivers of immortal stones added together were 1 billion immortal stones. So many immortal stones. Countless cultivators wouldn't be able to earn that much in their lifetime. But for Lin Feng, 1 billion immortal stones was nothing. Here's 1 billion celestial stones. It's the research fund. When you finish researching the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl, don't sell it to anyone else, give it to me. Apart from the 1 billion celestial stones, when you finish researching the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl, I'll buy it from you at a high price, said Lin Feng. After seeing the 10 rivers of immortal stones, Pei Ingjuan's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Pei Ingjun was in need of money now, especially in need of money. He had been researching the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl for so many years, but he hadn't succeeded. He didn't have much income these years. It was like eating his previous savings. So, Pei Ingjun was very poor now. In order to research the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl, Pei Ingjun had basically sold everything he could. Lin Feng's 1 billion immortal stones. It was really timely help. He didn't have to worry about immortal stones anymore. Pei Ingjun hurriedly put away the 1 billion immortal stones and said, "Brother Lin, don't worry. I definitely won't let your 1 billion immortal stones go to waste. After so many years of research, I've already achieved great results. I feel that I've reached the most critical juncture of successfully synthesizing the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl. It's also the final juncture. Perhaps we'll see the results soon." Lin Feng naturally hoped that Pei Ingjun could quickly develop the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl. He had a large number of 9 heavenly thunder source pearls. When the time came, he would kill gods and Buddhas, even if the Sky Emperor came. As long as he had enough 9 heavenly thunder source pearls, he could even kill the Sky Emperor. Just thinking about it made him excited. But Lin Feng also knew he couldn't be in a hurry to develop the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl. He needed to develop it calmly. The more anxious he was, the harder it would be to successfully develop the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl. So, he had to be patient in order to successfully develop the 9 heavenly thunder source pearl. Lin Feng said, "You don't have to rush. Let's take it slow. Hee hee, I'm not in a hurry. I have a card up my sleeve. Paying June said. Lin Feng chatted with Paying June for a while, and then left. Lin Feng walked back to his residence. At this time, Lin Feng felt a gloomy aura behind him. His heart trembled slightly. He turned his head and looked behind him. A face as ugly as a ghost appeared behind him. The owner of this face was the old witch. Lin Feng felt a chill run down his spine. This old witch's cultivation was very strong. She could actually appear behind him without a sound. Lin Feng didn't even notice. If the old witch had attacked him, thinking about it, Lin Feng couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. Senior, people can scare people to death. Lin Feng said. Brat, don't you understand the principle of not showing one's wealth? You're really generous, casually giving out 1 billion immortal stones. I think you've already been targeted. The old witch said eerily. Chapter 51:20. The old witch was so powerful, yet she did not attack him. This meant that the old witch did not intend to kill him for his wealth. Lin Feng asked, Senior, please tell me, who is targeting me? The old witch replied, Who else? Of course it's that money-grubbing old thing. Money-grubbing old thing? Lin Feng was astonished. He thought for a moment and asked, Are you talking about that Lao Wu too? Of course it's him. He's not a good person. The old witch replied. Old man Wu came out from behind a big tree not far away and angrily said, Grandma Ancestor Wu, don't you dare slander me. I think you should be the one eyeing that brat, right? How dare you slander me here? Didn't you leave already? Why are you hiding behind a big tree? You should be punished. Grandma Wu too curled her lips. Lin Feng couldn't help but rub his forehead. The place he had come to, it seemed like it was not a simple place. Paying June, Lao Wu too, and Grandma Wu too were not simple existences. In fact, even the others weren't simple either. Now that he thought about it, Grandma Wu too could not be trusted completely. This was because of the feeling she gave off. It was very sinister and terrifying. She seemed to be a cultivator of the demonic path. She gave off a very oppressive aura. If not for Lin Feng's powerful cultivation, standing beside Grandma Wu Tu would definitely have a great impact on him. Grandma Wu Tu did not attack him. Perhaps she was afraid of Lao Wu Tu, who was hiding in the dark. All of these were highly possible. Lao Wu Tu said, This is my home. I can go wherever I want. You can't do anything about it. Old bastard, you don't have the slightest bit of kindness in your eyes. You're not as kind as Granny. I've been watching you all this time because I was worried that you would attack this innocent young friend. Over the years, many people have died here. Do you dare say that it has nothing to do with you? Grandma Wu sneered. Of course it doesn't matter. If an old witch like you dares to spout nonsense again, do you believe that I will make you move out right now? Lao Wu Tu said angrily. I've been paying rent for 100 years. If you want me to move out, fine. But according to the contract, you have to pay me 3 times the amount. Grandma Wu said. Then, she stretched out her shriveled right hand that looked like a ghost's claw. After seeing Grandma Witch's ancestor's outstretched hand, Lao Wu Tu's mouth twitched violently. He then said, You should continue living here. Lin Feng was speechless. It seemed that this Lao Wu Tu was a very smart person. He was truly a person who loved talents as much as his own life. Leave this place as soon as possible. This is not a place for a child like you. Grandma Wu said, Little friend, don't listen to this old witch's nonsense. Ever since she was dumped by someone when she was young, her brain has been abnormal. Lao Wu Tu said. Lin Feng was surprised. It seemed that these two people, they knew each other when they were young. It was true. It was unexpected. It's better than an old man like you. You've been single all your life, and you still have the nerve to talk nonsense about others. When you were young, I don't know who was the one who confessed to others time and time again, but was rejected again and again. Grandma Wu Tu said without backing down. Lin Feng rubbed his eyebrows. These two people were actually quarreling. After being exposed, Lao Wu Tu's expression became extremely ugly, just as he was about to say something. At this time, a voice came from outside. Excuse me, is this a place to stay? It was a woman's voice. Listening to the voice, It was actually quite pleasant to hear. Lin Feng turned his head and saw a woman wearing a green dress. Although her clothes were not luxurious, it was difficult to hide her peerless appearance. She was tall, had white skin, and a beautiful face. She was really a woman who could make people's hearts beat faster. This tall and beautiful woman carried 9 peachwood swords on her back. There was also an 8 trigrams compass hanging on her waist. This attire attracted Lin Feng's attention. Lin Feng suddenly thought of the female cultivator from the 9 Heavens sacred Dao Hall that he heard people talking about in the space-time tunnel. He wondered if it was this woman in front of him. If it was her, that would be great. In the past, Lin Feng had once looked for that female cultivator from the 9 Heavens sacred Dao Hall. Although he could go to the Tian family to inquire about the whereabouts of the snow dragon grass and crescent moon grass, what if the Tian family did not know? Therefore, Lin Feng had to prepare for both sides. If the female cultivator from the 9 Heavens sacred Dao Hall could calculate the location of these 2 heavenly treasures, it would naturally be a happy matter. Yes, this is a place to stay. Little girl, you really know how to find a place. This place has the best environment in the entire ancient city. Lao Wu Tu said with a smile. The scenery is really good, and it's also quite peaceful. I'll stay here. The woman said, all right, I'll take you to rest now, little girl. Lao Wu Tu said with a smile. The 2 of them left one after the other. When Lin Feng turned his head to look at Grandma Wu, however, he found that Grandma Wu had already disappeared without a trace. She really came and went like a ghost. Lin Feng stood in place, his expression uncertain. This place was a bit strange. Should he leave first? But soon, Lin Feng gave up on this idea. With his current cultivation, coupled with the many methods he had grasped, there was no need to be afraid. Moreover, Lin Feng suspected that the female cultivator just now was one of the female cultivators from the 9 Heavens sacred Dao Hall. So, Lin Feng planned to find an opportunity to visit that female cultivator. Lin Feng returned to his residence. After waiting for about 2 hours, he guessed that the female cultivator should be almost done packing up. Thus, Lin Feng left his residence. He headed to the place where the female cultivator lived. When he arrived outside the small courtyard where the female cultivator lived, Lin Feng knocked on the door. Not long after, the female cultivator walked out and opened the door for Lin Feng. It's you? Why are you looking for me? The female cultivator looked at Lin Feng in surprise and asked. Lin Feng asked, Fairy, could it be that you are the goddess oracle from the 9 Heavens sacred Dao Hall? The female cultivator smiled and said, Even you have heard of my name. Of course. Lin Feng nodded and said, I came to find you this time to ask for your help in divination. The female cultivator said, No problem, come in. Thank you. Lin Feng cupped his fists and said. Then, he entered the courtyard. The female cultivator closed the courtyard door and walked in. When the female cultivator came to Lin Feng's side, Lin Feng smelled a pleasant fragrance from the female cultivator's body. Lin Feng's heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. That fragrance should be her body's natural fragrance. A woman with a natural fragrance. Chapter 51:21. The female cultivator welcomed Lin Feng into the living room. Both of them sat down. The female cultivator introduced herself. My name is Wan Lingyue, a disciple of the 9 Heavens sacred Dao Hall. My name is. Lin Feng was about to introduce himself. Wan Lingyue said, I know who you are. If my guess is correct, you should be the sinner's blood emperor, Lin Feng. And this time, you've come to find me to help you deduce the whereabouts of the snow dragon grass and crescent moon grass. Am I right? After hearing Wan Lingyue's words, Lin Feng was completely shocked. Wan Lingyue. She even knew what he was here for. Could it be that she had divined it? If that was the case, that would be too shocking. However, the more capable Wan Lingyue was, the happier Lin Feng was. Lin Feng said, Fairy is really amazing. I admire you. It's just some insignificant skills. I don't deserve your praise. Wan Lingyue said. Said Lin Feng. You're too modest. I've seen many strange people over the years, but I've never seen anyone as strong as you, said Lin Feng. Since you already know why I'm here, I won't hide my intentions. This time, I really do want to ask you to help me deduce the whereabouts of the snow dragon grass and crescent moon grass. As for the hard work required to deduce the snow dragon grass and crescent moon grass, just name it. No matter how much it is, I'll be able to satisfy you. Wan Lingyue said, if it was someone else who asked me to deduce, I would agree. However, I can't agree to your request. Hearing this, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. He asked, why is that? Wan Lingyue said, because I'm not proficient in the art of deduction. Not proficient in the art of deduction? But you've already displayed an extraordinary ability. Lin Feng said. Wan Lingyue said, my bloodline is called the mind-reading bloodline. That's why I was born with some special abilities. For example, I can see the thoughts and secrets of others. Lin Feng was moved. There was actually such a bloodline? Wasn't this too terrifying? Lin Feng couldn't help but look at Wan Lingyue warily. This woman was too scary. There were many secrets hidden in his heart. If this woman were to pry into the secrets in his heart, wouldn't that be a very bad thing? Lin Feng had no choice but to guard against this woman. At that moment, Wan Lingyue said, actually, sir, you don't need to be on guard against me. Even though I can read other people's thoughts, in reality, the stronger they are, the more difficult it is to read people's thoughts, said Lin Feng. Prince, you're extremely strong, and you're extremely lucky. It's extremely difficult to pry into your secrets. I've already done my best to pry into your background. If I want to pry into your secrets, you'll definitely find out, said Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't know if he should believe Wan Lingyue's words. However, one must always be on guard against others. Thus, regardless of whether Wan Lingyue was telling the truth or not, he had to be on guard against this woman. Lin Feng said, Fairy, you weren't brought here by Wu Kuan. Logically speaking, you shouldn't know about this place, but you specifically found this place. Why are you here? I'm here for the same reason you're here, Prince, Wan Lingyue said. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. Then, he started to have second thoughts. Lin Feng guessed. Wan Lingyue had most likely misunderstood. After Wan Lingyue saw through his identity, she must have thought that he had a very clear purpose for coming here. However, in reality, he had only come here by coincidence. Wan Lingyue obviously didn't think so. Lin Feng didn't plan to hide it from Wan Lingyue. He continued, if I were to say that I came here by coincidence, would you believe me? Wan Lingyue was surprised. She then nodded and said, of course I would believe you. Prince isn't someone who lies. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. Wan Lingyue had overestimated him. Lin Feng asked, Fairy, can you tell me why you're here? Wan Lingyue set up some restrictions and sealed the room. She was very cautious. After doing all this, Wan Lingyue said, Prince, do you know about the Wu clan? The Wu clan? Is that Lao Wu Tu's clan? Lin Feng asked. That's right. Wan Lingyue replied. Lin Feng said, I don't know much about it. Wan Lingyue said, the Wu clan was an extremely powerful clan, but one of their ancestors went out and brought an extremely terrifying item with him. From then on, the Wu clan was plagued by misfortune. The members of the Wu clan died one after another. Now, almost all of them are dead. Wu Kuan isn't actually a member of the Wu clan. He's just a child that Lao Wu Tu took in and was given the surname Wu by Lao Wu Tu. Lin Feng frowned slightly and said, so, Lao Wu Tu is the only member of the Wu clan left? That's right. Wan Lingyue nodded. In that case, did you come here for that unknown item? Lin Feng asked. That's right. Wan Lingyue nodded. She paused for a moment before continuing. Actually, I can't say that there are no clues at all. My teacher had a good relationship with a strong cultivator from the Wu family, so my teacher heard that strong cultivator from the Wu family mention that item. Oh, there's such a thing? Doesn't that mean you know what that item is? Lin Feng asked curiously. Wan Lingyue replied, I heard that it's a supreme treasure called the Nine Heavens Cauldron. The Nine Heavens Cauldron? What the hell is that? Is it very powerful? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. Wan Lingyue smiled bitterly. Lin Gongzi, have you never heard of the Nine Heavens Cauldron? No. Lin Feng replied. Wan Lingyue said, this item doesn't belong to our epoch. A treasure that transcends epochs? Lin Feng was shocked. Of course, it's not that simple, Wan Lingyue said. She then lowered her voice and said, I heard that it came from that world that can't be told. Lin Feng gasped. It came from that world that can't be told. Didn't that mean the Nine Heavens Cauldron? It came from the world of the mastermind? Chapter 51:22. Such an item was like a hot potato. Even if they found it, they wouldn't be able to control it. What had happened to the Wu clan was the best proof of that. That was why, if they really found the Jutian God Cauldron, they would have to think carefully about whether or not they could obtain it. It would be a tragedy if they didn't get the treasure and died. Wan Lingyue said, "We don't want the treasure. We just want the Jutian God Cauldron's energy and fate." Fate and fate? Lin Feng looked at Wan Lingyue in surprise. It seemed that Wan Lingyue's goal was different from what he had expected. Wan Lingyue's words piqued Lin Feng's interest. Wan Lingyue continued, as the Jyotian God Cauldron, it's related to the fate of that world, so it's naturally extraordinary. Who knows how much fate and energy it has absorbed over the years? Although fate and fate can't be seen or touched, in reality, fate and fate exist in the world. It's very useful to cultivators, so I don't need to explain it. I'm sure you understand it very well. As for energy, it can help us break through our shackles and increase our cultivation. Lin Feng's heart shook. So if we can find the Jyotian God Cauldron, it'll be a great thing for us. It's like that, Wan Lingyue said. Why are you looking for the Jyotian God Cauldron now? Lin Feng asked. Because my master sensed something. He said that the Jyotian God Cauldron should appear soon and will return to that world. Before that, we'll have a chance to steal its fate and energy. Wan Lingyue said. Lin Feng said, Your master is that powerful? Wan Lingyue said, Of course he's powerful. My master created the Jyotian Divine Dao Hall. His methods aren't something we can imagine. When talking about her master, Wan Lingyue showed an extremely respectful expression. It seems that deep down, she was full of reverence for her master. This made Lin Feng very curious. He didn't know what kind of person Tian Lingyue's master was. Lin Feng lamented, The Nine Heavens God's Cauldron has returned to that world. I'm afraid that world's strength will increase again. Wan Lingyue said, There are gains and losses in everything. Perhaps there will be gains, but perhaps there will be some things that even we don't know about. This was naturally very likely. Lin Feng asked, Do we need to wait for a while? That's right. Wan Lingyue nodded. She continued, Everyone who came here probably has a goal, so if we work together, we'll have a better chance. This was a pretty good suggestion, and Lin Feng nodded in agreement. All right, let's work together then. Lin Feng then asked, Do you know anything about the people who live here? Wan Lingyue nodded and said, I know some things about them, but I don't know much. Tell me about it. Lin Feng said. Wan Lingyue said, Pei Jun is an alchemist, and he probably came here by accident. As for the witch ancestor, she was a very famous expert of the devil path back in the day. She's been living in seclusion for many years, and this time, she might have wanted to use the Nine Heavens God's Cauldron's power to advance. The girl who looks 7 or 8 years old is called Elder Guishan. She looks very cute, but she's not easy to deal with. Her body can't grow because of special reasons, but she's a vicious and merciless person. She's good at all kinds of powerful demonic techniques, so she can't be underestimated. The girl who looks weak is called Su Wanqing, and she's a very strong person. She's nicknamed the Poisonous Widow. Lin Feng thought of the weak girl. She was quite pretty and had a good temperament. That kind of temperament left a deep impression on people. Lin Feng didn't think that she would have such an explosive nickname. Wan Lingyue said, These people all have some powerful methods, especially that Lao Wu too. The people of the Wu family died because of the Nine Heavens God's Cauldron, but he's still alive now. He's really powerful. Lin Feng nodded. He was also very afraid of that Lao Wu too. Lin Feng couldn't even see the depth of Lao Wu Tu's strength. Lao Wu Tu was probably the strongest and most powerful person in the group. Of course, this was just Lin Feng's guess. The other people might be stronger than Lao Wu Tu. This was also very likely. Lin Feng and Wan Lingyue chatted for a while. Then, he said goodbye and left. After Lin Feng returned to his residence, he added some new restrictions. The reason he added these restrictions was because Lin Feng felt that the people around him needed to be more careful. It was better to be safe than sorry. He didn't want to fail miserably. After doing all this, Lin Feng relaxed. There was still some time before the Tian family's auction, so Lin Feng could still stay here for a while. Lin Feng hoped that he could find the Nine Heavens God's Cauldron during this time. At that moment, Sage Martin transmitted, "I advise you not to provoke the Nine Heavens God's Cauldron. That thing has already given birth to a god. Aren't you courting death by provoking the Nine Heavens God's Cauldron?" Lin Feng replied, "It's fine. Wealth comes from danger. One must know how to seek fortune and avoid calamity. That's the principle." Sage Martin continued, "This guy was someone who didn't want to take risks at all. Every time he encountered danger, he didn't think about how to deal with the danger, but how to avoid it." This made Lin Feng quite speechless. What a disgrace to the Great Immortal's name. He might as well stop calling himself Sage Martin Great Immortal and call himself Sage Martin Coward. Lin Feng ignored Sage Martin Great Immortal. He sat down cross-legged. He began to cultivate. Late at night, Lin Feng suddenly felt that the weather had become very cold. Wisps of coldness swept through his body, which surprised Lin Feng. His cultivation was so strong. So how could the coldness enter his body? Lin Feng walked out of his room and went to the courtyard outside. He looked up at the sky and saw a silver moon and stars. The starry sky was very beautiful. However, the coldness couldn't be dispelled. Lin Feng's heart couldn't help but tremble slightly. Could this coldness invading my body have something to do with the Nine Heavens God's Cauldron? Bang, bang, bang. Chapter 51:23. Lin Feng frowned slightly. It was already the latter half of the night. Who would knock on his door? There weren't many people living here. "Who is it?" Lin Feng asked. "Young master, I am Han Yu." "Greetings, young master." At this moment, a voice came from outside. It was his brother's woman's voice. The moment he heard this voice, Lin Feng immediately rolled his eyes. Didn't Wu Kuan say that this place was very quiet? Was there absolutely no one to disturb him? It was his first night here. There was actually a female cultivator knocking on his door to promote him. "He's already asleep. Fairy, please take your leave," Lin Feng said. He had no interest in this kind of female cultivator. To put it bluntly, with Lin Feng's current status, it wouldn't be a problem for him to be a groom every night. With a hook of his finger, a large number of fairies would throw themselves at him. So, as for these prostitutes, naturally he had no interest in them. However, the female cultivator in front of him had no intention of leaving. She said, "Young master, you have misunderstood me. I am not a person who does that. This time, I really have something to discuss with you, and it is an extremely important matter." "You don't do that?" Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. Then he said, "Then I'm really sorry. I hope Fairy won't blame me." Lin Feng arrived at the courtyard door. He then opened the courtyard door. Then, Lin Feng saw a beautiful woman. This woman was indeed beautiful. Her exquisite facial features made people gasp in amazement. Tall and charming figure, fair as jade skin, charming and flirtatious eyes. The goddess was talking about this kind of woman. Of course, Lin Feng was used to seeing all kinds of beauties. Therefore, even when facing this goddess in front of him, he was still very calm. "Let's talk inside," Lin Feng said. "Thank you, young master." The female cultivator bowed to Lin Feng. "Fairy, you're welcome," Lin Feng said. She did not get up on her own. A pair of charming eyes looked at Lin Feng, as if she wanted Lin Feng to help her up. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. He then reached out and helped the female cultivator up. "Many thanks, young master," the female cultivator said in a sweet voice. Her voice was very soft. After hearing her voice, even Gu Gu felt like he was about to melt. Lin Feng and the female cultivator entered the courtyard together. Lin Feng closed the courtyard door. He then led the female cultivator to the living room. Lin Feng asked, "I haven't seen you before. Did you just move in?" "I've lived here for a long time," the woman said. Wu Kuan said that there were 5 people living here, except for Wu Kuan and Lao Wu too. Lin Feng had already met Grandma Wu and the others. There was only one person he had never seen before. Could it be this woman in front of him? That was a possibility. Lin Feng said, "Fairy, you said that you're called Han Yue? May I know your full name?" My full name is Guang Hanyue. The woman said. This name sounds pretty good. Lin Feng said. Actually, what he was really thinking was that the name sounded a little sad. This was indeed a rather sad name. However, these words were a little rude. Therefore, Lin Feng did not say these words out loud. Young master, you flatter me, Guang Hanyue said. Fairy, you said that you had something to talk to me about. May I know why you've come to find me? Lin Feng went straight to the point. I saw that you have an extraordinary aura and am very fond of you. That's why I came to see you. Guang Hanyue stood up and walked towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng couldn't help but touch his chin. Was her charm already that great? Lin Feng was about to reject her, but at that moment, Guang Hanyue had already sat on Lin Feng's thighs and wrapped her arms around Lin Feng's neck. Guang Hanyue's series of actions stunned Lin Feng. Wasn't this too open? I'm a conservative man. However, even Lin Feng himself didn't believe it. You're playing with fire, do you know that? Lin Feng said. I like to play with fire, Guang Hanyue said. Her hands moved back and forth on Lin Feng's back. Then, slowly, she touched Lin Feng's spine. Just as she was about to touch Lin Feng's spine, many runes appeared on Lin Feng's back, blocking Guang Hanyue's attack. Lin Feng looked at Guang Hanyue with a smile, yet not a smile. You must be disappointed, right? What are you talking about? Guang Hanyue looked confused. Pretend. Keep pretending, said Lin Feng. Didn't you want to break my spine a moment ago? Guang Hanyue said. How could you misunderstand me like that? I like you, so I came here to confess my feelings, said Lin Feng indifferently. Even though I'm very charming, I'm not that stupid. I'm not the kind of man who loses his soul because of a woman's words, said Lin Feng indifferently. Guang Hanyue looked as if she was about to cry. To put it bluntly, you still don't believe me? Are you worthy of my trust? Lin Feng reached out and pinched Guang Hanyue's chin. What a beautiful face. So beautiful. So scary. Of course I'm worthy of your trust, but you don't believe me. Guang Hanyue looked very sad. She muttered to herself, my heart belongs to the bright moon, but the bright moon shines in the ditch. If you don't believe me, I'll leave now. Lin Feng put his arm around Guang Hanyue's waist, not letting her leave. Instead, he said, do you know how you've exposed yourself? Exposed myself? I don't know what you're talking about, Guang Hanyue said sadly. Lin Feng continued, you're very good at pretending. For example, your beautiful face, your hot body, your flirtatious eyes, and your lovable personality. But there's something you didn't do well. Guang Hanyue didn't say anything. She just looked at Lin Feng. Shadow. Lin Feng smiled. Is there something wrong with my shadow? Guang Hanyue asked. Aren't you a fox spirit? Your shadow doesn't seem to have a tail. Lin Feng said with a smile that didn't seem like a smile. The reason why Lin Feng knew that Guang Hanyue was a fox spirit was because he had noticed that she had 9 foxtails under her dress. Her clothes were slightly bulging, but her silhouette was slim, which meant something was wrong. When Guang Hanyue heard Lin Feng's explanation, she was slightly stunned. Then, her expression became quite unsightly. I'm surprised that you were able to notice such a small thing, Guang Hanyue said calmly. Thank you for the compliment. You shouldn't have a shadow. So, are you a ghost? Lin Feng asked. Chapter 51:24. Just as the 3,000 strands of hair were about to pierce through Lin Feng's head, an energy wall suddenly appeared in front of Lin Feng. As a result, the 3,000 strands of hair were all blocked by Lin Feng's energy wall. The woman then sent a palm strike towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng stretched out his hand to block the woman's palm strike. When the two sides collided, the woman used this palm strike to quickly retreat more than 10 meters away. She landed in the living room. Lin Feng waved his hand, and a dense array of restrictions sealed the living room. You're really capable. The woman looked coldly at Lin Feng. Lin Feng looked at the woman with interest and said, You still haven't answered me. Are you a human or a ghost? The woman sneered and said, I am a ghost immortal, an undying and indestructible ghost immortal. As soon as she finished her sentence, Yizichen's eyes widened. The shadow that she had used a special method to create disappeared without a trace. Ghosts had no shadows. No matter if it was a low-level ghost or a high-level ghost, they all had no shadows. Even if it was as powerful as a ghost immortal, there was no shadow either. For example, the female ghost immortal. Ordinary ghosts that had evolved to the ghost immortal level had already shed some of the characteristics of ordinary ghosts. Ordinary ghosts did not have flesh and blood and were only bodies of energy. But ghost immortals were different. Ghost immortals had long since developed flesh and blood and belonged to a different kind of life form. To be precise, they could be considered as living creatures in the underworld and not living creatures in the world of the living. Even as powerful as the ghost immortal, they could not stay in the world of the living for too long. This would cause great harm to their bodies. But why was this ghost immortal here? Lin Feng did not know for the time being. Why are you looking for me? Lin Feng looked at the female ghost immortal and asked. The female ghost immortal said, because I want to absorb your yang qi. Rumor had it that ghosts could absorb yang qi to stay in the world of the living and also increase their cultivation. This was quite similar to some evil techniques. For example, some harvesting techniques. There was also the saying of absorbing yang energy. If you just want to absorb yang qi, you can go outside and absorb yang qi. You don't have to take the risk to come here. Lin Feng said indifferently. I can't go out, so I can only absorb your yang qi. The female ghost immortal said. Can't get out? Are you trapped here? Lin Feng looked at the female ghost immortal in surprise.
Yes.
The female ghost celestial nodded and said, So, you should let me eat you. As soon as he finished speaking, the female ghost immortal once again charged towards Lin Feng. This time, the female ghost immortal's fingernails kept growing longer. In an instant, they were already half a meter long. Lin Feng took out the black dragon sword and charged at the female ghost immortal. Lin Feng's sword slashed towards the female ghost immortal. The ghost immortal sneered in the face of Lin Feng's attack. She showed no fear at all. The female ghost immortal's sharp claws were her weapons. Clang, accompanied by the sound of a violent collision. Lin Feng and the female ghost immortal collided fiercely. When Lin Feng's black dragon sword slashed at the female ghost immortal's sharp claws, it was unable to cut off the female ghost immortal's sharp claws. These claws were too terrifying. The female ghost immortal's other claw quickly swept towards Lin Feng. 5 claws. 5 claw lights were formed. In an instant, they arrived in front of Lin Feng. The power of the 5 claw lights was extremely terrifying. It made people's hair stand on end. Facing the female ghost immortal's attack, Lin Feng did not dare to be careless. Many runes appeared on the surface of his body. Those were magic immunity runes. Every single rune. They all contained an astonishing defensive power. When the claw lights swept over, the magic immunity runes on the surface of Lin Feng's body suddenly emitted an astonishing fluctuation. Most of the power of the 5 claw lights was blocked by Lin Feng's magic immunity runes. Only a part of the power was not blocked. That part of the power was neutralized by Lin Feng's powerful body. But even so, Lin Feng was still sent flying. Fortunately, Lin Feng was not injured. You're really powerful. As expected of the female ghost immortal. Lin Feng took a deep breath and said, You're also very powerful. Someone as powerful as you must have a very strong yang qi. If I devour you, my cultivation will definitely increase a lot. The female ghost immortal said coldly. She quickly rushed towards Lin Feng, wanting to launch an even more violent attack on Lin Feng and the others. But at this moment, Lin Feng took out the Bell of Hell King. Then, Lin Feng sent out a series of runes. Those runes all entered the Bell of Hell King. Lin Feng knew how to use the Bell of Hell King. With the increase of his cultivation, the power of the Bell of Hell King was gradually activated by Lin Feng. And the Bell of Hell King was the nemesis of the creatures of the underworld. The Bell of Hell King emitted a terrifying fluctuation. Then, the Bell of Hell King quickly attacked the female ghost immortal. The female ghost immortal did not recognize the Bell of Hell King. After all, very few creatures of the underworld knew the existence of the Bell of Hell King. And the female ghost immortal in front of them was not a creature of the underworld. She directly used her sharp claws to sweep at the Bell of Hell King, as if she wanted to sweep it away. But when the female ghost immortal's claws collided with the Bell of Hell King, The female ghost immortal's claws actually started to burn quickly. It was like an ordinary person's hand had been put in concentrated sulfuric acid. Ah! The female ghost immortal could not help but let out a painful scream. Her expression was one of shock. She did not expect that Lin Feng's magic treasure would be so powerful. It actually caused such serious damage to her. The female ghost immortal did not dare to continue fighting with the Bell of Hell King. She quickly retreated and pulled away from the Bell of Hell King. "What is that magic treasure of yours?" the female ghost immortal asked with an ugly expression. "Bell of Hell King. Have you heard of it?" Lin Feng asked. "The supreme treasure of the underworld king." The female ghost immortal's expression became more and more ugly. The suppression of the Bell of Hell King on creatures like her was unimaginable. If Lin Feng did not have the Bell of Hell King, she felt that she should be able to kill Lin Feng. However, Lin Feng had the Bell of Hell King. She felt it. She had no chance of winning at all. "Today, I want to catch you. I plan to tame you and raise a female ghost immortal as a slave. It should be a good experience," Lin Feng said with a smile. Then, he controlled the Bell of Hell King to suppress the female ghost immortal. After seeing the Bell of Hell King flying towards her, the female ghost immortal's eyes revealed a trace of fear. Just now, the Bell of Hell King had caused serious damage to her. Female ghost immortal. Her memory was still fresh. The female ghost immortal did not dare to hesitate. She turned around and flew out. When the female ghost immortal rushed to the door, she smashed her palm towards the restrictions set up by Lin Feng. However, she did not destroy the restrictions set up by Lin Feng. Chapter 51:25. You won't be able to escape. You're destined to become my prisoner, Lin Feng said with a cold smile. The Bell of Hell once again arrived in front of the female ghost immortal. Then, it fiercely charged towards the female ghost immortal's body. Just as it was about to hit the female ghost immortal's body, suddenly, the female ghost immortal's body disappeared without a trace. Even the Bell of Hell lost track of the female ghost immortal's whereabouts. The female ghost immortal's methods were truly extraordinary. Namo Amit Ba. Lin Feng clasped his hands together, like a holy monk, when his voice was heard. Suddenly, endless Buddhist lights surged out. Those Buddhist lights were rolling in the void. It filled every corner of the room. Screech. The female ghost immortal let out a painful scream. The power of Buddhism. It restrained these evil ghosts. The female ghost immortal was naturally restrained. Of course, it also depended on the cultivation of the person who used the Buddhist sacred art. If the person who used the Buddhist sacred art was not strong enough, even if he used the Buddhist sacred art, he would not be able to restrain the female ghost immortal. But Lin Feng was strong enough. So, the female ghost immortal was destined to be restrained by Lin Feng. The female ghost immortal appeared and looked at Lin Feng fiercely. Lin Feng said, "If you obediently submit to me, you will be able to suffer a lot less." "I will not submit to anyone," the female ghost immortal replied coldly. "Then I'll suppress you," Lin Feng said. Under Lin Feng's control, a large amount of Buddhist karma enveloped the female ghost immortal. At the same time, the Bell of Hell also suppressed the female ghost immortal. Lin Feng's double attack put a lot of pressure on the female ghost immortal. Something appeared in the female ghost immortal's right hand. Upon closer inspection, it was a black flag. That black flag should be a powerful supreme treasure. But as for what kind of treasure it was, Lin Feng was not particularly clear. The female ghost immortal activated the black flag. In an instant, the black flag rapidly grew in size. The female ghost immortal held the black flag in her hand. "It's the Empyrean flag." At this time, the demon lord's voice resounded in Lin Feng's mind. The demon lord sounded very surprised. Lin Feng was flabbergasted. What exactly was that treasure? Why was the demon lord so surprised? "What is the heavenly god flag?" asked Lin Feng telepathically. "A conferred god? The supreme treasure of the era that could command conferred gods? The battle flag of the United States," the demon lord said. Hearing this, Lin Feng couldn't help but be shocked. The heavenly god banner was actually so extraordinary? The female ghost immortal actually had such a supreme treasure. What is the background of this female ghost immortal? He even had a treasure like the heavenly god flag. At this moment, the female ghost immortal waved the heavenly god flag. When the heavenly god flag was waved, the heavenly god flag swept out waves of terrifying power, dispersing the surrounding Buddhist light. Even the Hell King bell was sent flying. The power of the heavenly god flag was really powerful. However, when the female ghost immortal activated the heavenly god flag, her face became extremely pale. Although the heavenly god flag was powerful, the heavenly god flag could command conferred gods? The battle flag. This kind of thing could condense a conferred god? The will to fight was extremely strong and young. And the female ghost immortal was Aen's spirit. Although the female ghost immortal had already condensed a flesh and blood body and was not very different from a normal person, her essence was still Aen's spirit. Therefore, the current female ghost immortal, she would be restrained by a magic treasure that was extremely strong and young. Buddhist magic treasures were extremely strong and young magic treasures, and the heavenly god flag was also a magic treasure that was extremely strong and young. Although the female ghost immortal could activate the heavenly god flag. However, so what if she could activate the heavenly god flag? She would still be restrained by the heavenly god flag. This was her weakness. There was nothing she could do about it. Therefore, the female ghost immortal couldn't activate the heavenly god flag for a long time. The female ghost immortal didn't dare to stay and quickly rushed outside. This time, the female ghost immortal waved the heavenly god flag in her hand and swept it towards the restrictions set up by Lin Feng. Bang! Accompanied by the sound of a violent collision. The female ghost immortal's heavenly god flag directly destroyed the restrictions set up by Lin Feng. Then, the female ghost immortal quickly rushed outside. After Lin Feng put away the bell of Hades, he chased after her. In the void, ghost chi churned. The female ghost immortal hid in the ghost chi and quickly rushed towards the depths. Lin Feng chased after him, unwilling to give up. Do you really want to fight to the death? The female ghost immortal said fiercely. Lin Feng said, I don't think it will be a life and death struggle. You shouldn't have the ability to kill me, and I am very interested in capturing you. After hearing Lin Feng's words, the female ghost immortal's face became even more gloomy. She continued to fly towards the depths. Lin Feng's speed was much faster than the female ghost immortal's, so the distance between the two of them was constantly shrinking. Perhaps it wouldn't take long. He would be able to catch up to the female ghost immortal. The two of them, one running and one chasing, finally arrived at the depths of the mansion. The depths were extremely eerie and terrifying. Not a single blade of grass grew. After arriving here, it was as if they had arrived at the underworld. Moreover, the deepest part of the mansion was sealed by restrictions. The female ghost immortal quickly rushed into the deepest part of the mansion. The restrictions here are so powerful, but they seem to have loosened. Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter to himself. The restrictions in the depths had loosened, so he could try to enter the restrictions now. If he encountered any danger, he would consider coming out. Lin Feng believed that with his array formation skills, there would be no problem in coming out if he encountered any danger. Wanting to trap him, this was not an easy task. Lin Feng entered the courtyard. He quickly passed through the various restrictions. The restrictions here were extremely terrifying. However, those restrictions were unable to cause any harm to Lin Feng. Lin Feng arrived at the deepest part of the mansion. At the deepest part, the Yin Qi was the heaviest. A well. Lin Feng looked into the depths and couldn't help but slightly frown. At the deepest part of the mansion, there was actually a well. That well emitted an extremely eerie aura. Did the female ghost immortal enter this well? Lin Feng looked at the well. It was pitch black down there. He couldn't see anything. Therefore, Lin Feng didn't know what was going on down there. Lin Feng was hesitating whether or not to go down and take a look. After thinking for a while, Lin Feng made his decision. Although it was very likely that it would be extremely dangerous down there, Lin Feng wanted to capture the female ghost immortal. If he didn't go down and take a look, naturally, he wouldn't be able to capture the female ghost immortal. Chapter 51-26 WWXX. Chapter 51:27. Lin Feng entered the well. He dove all the way down. This well was very deep. It emitted a sinister and terrifying aura. What surprised Lin Feng was that there was no well water in this well. There was only demonic aura that filled the well. After entering the well, Lin Feng was extremely careful, because this was the female ghost immortal's territory, so he had to be careful. Or else, that would be too dangerous. If he was the slightest bit careless, he could die here. The female ghost immortal was an extremely terrifying existence. She was not a character that could be easily manipulated. After diving for about 2 hours, Lin Feng was still unable to dive to the deepest part. Lin Feng could not help but be speechless. Wasn't this well too deep? Where was the bottom? Lin Feng could only patiently continue to dive down. About another hour or so passed. Lin Feng saw a black light barrier appear below. He revealed a hint of joy. It seemed he had finally reached the bottom. Lin Feng entered the black light barrier. As soon as he entered, before he could clearly see his surroundings, a cold voice sounded. "Since you want to die, then I can fulfill your wish." This was the female ghost immortal's voice. The female ghost immortal naturally knew that Lin Feng had chased after her all the way here. So, when Lin Feng came down, the female ghost immortal immediately activated the powerful restriction here. After all kinds of great formations were activated, Lin Feng was instantly sent flying by those great formations. However, before he was sent flying, Lin Feng had already activated the ruler's armor. In addition, Lin Feng had used the technique of magic immunity. So, 80% of the power was successfully neutralized by Lin Feng. Only 20% of the power was left on Lin Feng's body. However, that 20% of the power was also successfully neutralized by Lin Feng's incomparably powerful body. At this moment, Lin Feng could finally observe the situation around him. He discovered this was a world shrouded in darkness, emitting an eerie and terrifying aura. In the world of darkness, there were terrifying restrictions everywhere. The female ghost immortal stood not far away and looked at him coldly. "The last thing you should have done was to chase me all the way here. Now that you've chased me all the way here, you won't be able to escape even if you have wings." The female ghost immortal looked coldly at Lin Feng. Lin Feng said, "She's so beautiful and charming, but why is her temper so bad? Can we talk peacefully?" "Hee hee, you came here to kill me, and you want me to talk calmly? You're really shameless." The female ghost immortal sneered. Lin Feng said, "Don't make it sound so bad. I'm not trying to kill you. I'm just trying to guide you onto the right path." The female ghost couldn't help but roll her eyes after hearing Lin Feng. It was true. He was shameless, invincible in the world. "Go to hell." The female ghost immortal shouted coldly. She continued to activate the various powerful restrictions around her to attack Lin Feng. The power of those restrictions was indeed terrifying. When those restrictions were activated by Lin Feng, a terrifying wave of energy immediately filled the air. Very quickly, those restrictions began to attack Lin Feng. All kinds of terrifying attacks bombarded Lin Feng. When he first came down, Lin Feng was caught off guard, so he wasn't able to dodge the attacks. But now, it was different. Lin Feng was able to observe everything around him, and he had enough time to react. Therefore, when Lin Feng faced those restrictions again, he was able to handle them with ease. Lin Feng's inheritance of the Celestial Master Dao was displayed to the extreme at this moment. Lin Feng quickly shuttled through the powerful restrictions, successfully dodging all the attacks. It was true. Powerful methods. He was quickly approaching the female ghost immortal. When she saw Lin Feng quickly approaching her, the female ghost immortal's face couldn't help but become incomparably ugly. She originally thought that with the restrictions here, it wouldn't be a problem to kill Lin Feng. But who would have thought that Lin Feng was actually able to freely shuttle through the various restrictions? What kind of method was this? It was really shocking, and the female ghost immortal was quite vexed. "Let's go." Seeing that Lin Feng was about to reach here, the female ghost immortal didn't dare to hesitate. She turned around and ran, because the female ghost immortal knew, if this continued, she would be caught by Lin Feng, so she could only take advantage of this opportunity to escape. By the time Lin Feng arrived next to him, it was already too late to escape. However, the female ghost immortal still underestimated Lin Feng's ability. The moment she escaped, Lin Feng had already rushed out of the restrictions. Then, Lin Feng used the 8 directions world and quickly chased after the female ghost immortal. Lin Feng's speed was simply too fast. He quickly caught up to the female ghost immortal. Lin Feng took out the Bell of Hell. Under Lin Feng's control, the Bell of Hell quickly grew larger and then crashed towards the female ghost immortal. Facing the attack of the Bell of Hell, the female ghost immortal didn't dare to be careless. She quickly dodged the attack of the Bell of Hell. The female ghost immortal's ability was extraordinary. She successfully dodged the attack of the Bell of Hell. But at this time, Lin Feng used his 12-fold domineering magnetic field. The 12-fold domineering magnetic field directly enveloped the female ghost immortal and then suppressed her. After the female ghost immortal was enveloped by Lin Feng's 12-fold domineering magnetic field, she was instantly sent flying. Her battle strength was reduced by at least 50%. The moment the female ghost immortal was sent flying, Lin Feng had already arrived beside her. Then, he sent a palm strike towards the female ghost immortal. The female ghost immortal hurriedly exchanged a palm strike with Lin Feng. The female ghost immortal felt as if she was struck by lightning. Her body flew backwards. Her magic power became incomparably chaotic. Her injuries were not light. Lin Feng immediately sent out numerous runes. Those were the runes condensed by Lin Feng's 8 God-forbidden seals. They were very powerful. Those runes imprinted on the female ghost immortal's body and immediately sealed her. "Let me go." The female ghost immortal struggled, but she couldn't break free. She was now Lin Feng's prisoner. Lin Feng heaved a sigh of relief. He finally suppressed the female ghost immortal. Fortunately, the female ghost immortal couldn't use the divine god flag for a long time. If she could use that magic treasure for a long time, it wouldn't be realistic to suppress the female ghost immortal. Lin Feng arrived in front of the female ghost immortal. Then, he stretched out his hand and touched the female ghost immortal's scarily smooth face. This face was really smooth. She didn't look like a female ghost at all. However, the female ghost immortal's life level was very high. She was indeed different from ordinary female ghosts. "Be obedient and be my slave. I won't mistreat you." Lin Feng pinched the female ghost immortal's chin and said, looking at this face up close. Chapter 51:28. Lin Feng thought of many words to describe the celestial ghost's beauty. She was beautiful enough to cause the downfall of a city or a moon. She was worthy of any description. Female ghost immortal. She was so beautiful, so moving. "Just kill me," said Lin Feng. The female ghost immortal said. Lin Feng said, "Didn't you just say that you are an undying existence? I don't think I can kill you." The female ghost immortal rolled her eyes. She felt that Lin Feng must have done it on purpose. This was because cultivators like to boast about their abilities. In this world, how could there be an immortal in the true sense? Even the undead creatures of the underworld could be revived if they were killed. In fact, as long as one found the right method, they could also be killed. Therefore, the female ghost immortal did not pay attention to Lin Feng. This was because she felt that Lin Feng was both shameless and despicable. "You actually dare to ignore me. Do you believe that I won't let you see me naked right now?" Lin Feng said with a smile, his right hand on the belt of the female ghost immortal's clothes. He had to undress the female ghost immortal at any time. This scared the hell out of the female ghost immortal. "You're shameless." The female ghost immortal looked at Lin Feng angrily. "Thank you for the compliment," Lin Feng said. "You're shameless." The female ghost immortal continued to scold. "That's one of my strengths," Lin Feng continued. The female ghost immortal was speechless as she looked at the man in front of her. This guy could turn a weakness into a strength. How could his skin be so thick? Whether it was in her previous life or this life, the female ghost immortal had never seen such a shameless person. Lin Feng said with a smile, "Next, you will answer whatever I ask you. You won't reject me anymore, right?" Of course, the female ghost immortal didn't want to bother with Lin Feng. However, she was really worried that this shameless guy, Lin Feng, would do something excessive to her. Right now, the female ghost immortal's level of life was already very high. Coupled with the fact that she had condensed a new body of flesh and blood, she was no different from a normal cultivator. The only difference was that she did not have a shadow. But that didn't affect anything. The female ghost immortal also knew how charming she was. Therefore, she was really worried that Lin Feng would eat her clean. She felt that Lin Feng was someone who could do such a thing. The female ghost immortal also valued her chastity very much. All right. The female ghost immortal gritted her teeth as she answered Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't care about the female ghost immortal's attitude. He asked, "Name?" The female ghost immortal answered, "Guanghan Moon." This name was exactly the same as the name that the female ghost immortal had told him. "How many years have you been here?" Lin Feng continued to ask. The female ghostly immortal said, "Time is long. I turned into a vengeful spirit and became a female ghostly immortal. It took a long time. Most of the time, I was muddle-headed, so I don't know how long it was." Lin Feng nodded and asked, "Why didn't you enter the underworld?" The female ghostly immortal replied, "I can't enter the underworld." "Why?" Lin Feng asked, puzzled. Generally speaking, any spirit or ghost like the female ghost immortal could enter the underworld world. The underworld was their final destination. This was the first time that Lin Feng had heard that ghosts couldn't enter the underworld. "I've been cursed," the female ghost immortal said. She seemed to have thought of something sad, so when she said this, she couldn't help but reveal a heartbroken expression. "What happened in the past?" Lin Feng continued to ask. The female ghost immortal was silent. "So many years have passed. Can't you get over it?" Lin Feng asked. The female ghost immortal said, "The pain didn't happen to you, so it's natural for you to say it so easily. Only those who have experienced it know how difficult it is to overcome it." Lin Feng said, "I understand how you feel, but the past is the past. It's time to face a new life, so be bold and tell me what happened in the past. That way, you can face the future." "Can I?" The female ghost immortal couldn't help but mutter to herself. She wasn't sure either. "Of course you can," Lin Feng said with certainty. The female ghost immortal fell silent for a while before saying, "Back then, I was killed by someone I trusted. I died very, very miserably. I even became a sacrifice. It's funny when I think about it. I thought that the promise of eternal love would bring me happiness in the future, but in reality, I walked step by step into the abyss." "Is it related to the Wu family?" Lin Feng asked. The female ghost immortal sighed and nodded. "Yes, it's related to the Wu family. What exactly is going on?" Lin Feng asked. "My father obtained a treasure called the Jiutian Cauldron. It was very special. It was sealed and could not be opened. Once it was opened, many terrible things would happen. However, when my father obtained the Jiutian Cauldron, the seal of the Jiutian Cauldron had already loosened. My physique is special, and my bloodline can suppress the seal of the Jiutian Cauldron. Therefore, my father left the Jiutian Cauldron with me. Later, when I went out to train, I met someone. He was very strong, very young, very handsome, and very good to me. How could I have experienced such things at that time? Therefore, I had a good impression of him. But we weren't from the same world. He was from the undying world, and I was from the celestial world. I brought him to see my parents. I told my parents that I liked him very much. I hoped that I could go to the undying world with him. He also made a lot of promises to my parents," she said. "I won't travel far with my parents." Lin Feng said, "Yes, I won't travel far with my parents. The celestial world and the undying world are very, very far apart." The female ghost immortal sighed. "My parents didn't agree because the journey was too far. They couldn't be at ease with me going to the undying world, but I insisted and they finally agreed. After that, I came to the undying world and went to the Wu family. I thought that I would have a happy life. He promised to marry me and prepared a wedding for me. But on the night of the wedding, he changed." Chapter 51:29. "That's a sad story," he said. Lin Feng said. "Maybe it's because I can't see through people. Now that I think about it, my parents didn't want me to come to the undying realm. Maybe it wasn't just because the undying realm was too far away from the heaven realm. Maybe there were other reasons. But at that time, I was blinded by love, so I didn't listen to their advice. Therefore, they didn't tell me about their worries. Under my insistence, they finally compromised, said the female ghost immortal. Are you saying this because you hate your parents for not standing up for them? Lin Feng couldn't help but ask. The female ghost immortal said, Why would I hate my parents? I only have love for them. I only regret now. Why did I choose to leave my parents back then? If they knew about my death, would they be extremely sad? They didn't come looking for you? Lin Feng asked. I don't know. The female ghost immortal shook her head. At that time, the female ghost immortal was just a vengeful spirit and didn't have her own thoughts. So, even if the female ghost immortal's parents came looking for her, she probably wouldn't know. Therefore, the female ghost immortal really didn't know about this matter. Do you know why that person treated you so cruelly? Could it be that all the vows of eternal love were fake? Lin Feng asked. Maybe he knew about the 9 Heavens God Cauldron long ago, so he deliberately approached me. Maybe he found out later, but in front of benefits and me, he chose benefits and abandoned me. The female ghost immortal said sadly. It was indeed not an easy thing to walk out of such a sorrowful thing. Even after so many years, the female ghost immortal still couldn't completely walk out of this matter. Maybe she could say that she didn't care anymore, but in reality, she still cared about many things. What happened after that? The cultivators of the Wu family died one after another. What happened? Is it related to the 9 Heavens God Cauldron? Lin Feng asked. When he asked this question, Lin Feng didn't have much hope of getting an answer because the female ghost immortal should have died at that time. She probably didn't know what happened after that. The female ghost immortal said, I didn't experience what happened after that, but my father said that the 9 Heavens God Cauldron is a supreme treasure to the people of that world. But to us, it's a disaster. Therefore, when the people of our era open the seal of the 9 Heavens God Cauldron, it's very difficult to control it. There's a high chance that we would be devoured by the 9 Heavens God Cauldron. Hearing this, Lin Feng couldn't help but frown slightly. If that was the case, the tragedy of the Wu family might really be related to the 9 Heavens God Cauldron. In fact, at first, Lin Feng had some sympathy for the Wu family, but now, he didn't. Many things in the world were about the cycle of karma. The Wu family killed the female ghost immortal's previous life, Guang Hanyue, to satisfy their ambitions, but in the end, they were devoured by the 9 Heavens God Cauldron. Perhaps this was the so-called cycle of karma. I heard that the 9 Heavens God Cauldron is still here. I wonder if you found out where it is after all these years? Lin Feng asked. I've tried to find the 9 Heavens God Cauldron's location, but I didn't find any clues. Even so, I still feel that the 9 Heavens God Cauldron should be hidden somewhere. The female ghost immortal said. Lin Feng frowned slightly. The female ghost immortal didn't know where the 9 Heavens God Cauldron was hidden. If that was the case, he could only look for other clues. Lin Feng said, Perhaps I can help you escape, but I don't know how. Do you know? The female ghost immortal looked at Lin Feng in shock and said, Are you really willing to help me? Of course, Lin Feng nodded. Hearing Lin Feng's words, the female ghost immortal immediately became happy. She said, Come with me. Lin Feng nodded and removed the seal on the female ghost immortal. Then, he followed the female ghost immortal into the depths. The space in the underground world wasn't small. With the female ghost immortal leading the way, Lin Feng flew for 2 hours before arriving at their final destination. At the end of the underground world, there was a huge altar. 9 thick copper pillars stood on top of the altar. On one of the bronze pillars, there was a skeleton tied to it. Even though there was only a skeleton left, it could still be seen that it was left behind by a woman. Because the skeleton was relatively slender, which was a characteristic of a woman's skeleton. Men's skeletons were usually thicker. That's my skeleton. I can't get close to that place. Young master, go over and take my skeleton and bury it in the ground. I'll be able to escape the curse of this place and leave this place. The female ghost immortal said. All right, wait a moment, Lin Feng said. He was about to fly towards the altar, but at that moment, a rustling sound could be heard. After hearing that sound, Lin Feng stopped and walked outside. An old man smoking a pipe walked over. It was Lao Wu too. Little friend, Why aren't you sleeping at night? What are you doing here? Lao Wu Tu looked at Lin Feng and asked. Lin Feng said, I was attacked by a female ghost, so I chased after her. Are you talking about this female ghost? She has indeed been here for a long time. Many customers have been killed by this female ghost. It can be seen that this female ghost is not a good person, so we should stay away from her. Lao Wu Tu said. Lin Feng said, since you know that this female ghost has killed many people, why don't you kill her? Lao Wu Tu sighed and said, how can it be so easy to kill her? Her methods are too powerful. It's already good that she didn't kill you. Right now, this female ghost's body is bound, so her strength is greatly reduced. If little friend releases the corpse of this female ghost's previous life, then she will no longer be bound, and her battle strength will definitely increase greatly. At that time, it will be a disaster for everyone, including you. Would you believe the words of a female ghost? Ghosts are the best at deceiving people, because the words of ghosts are all nonsense, and naturally, ghosts cannot be trusted. Now that you mention it, it makes sense. Lin Feng nodded. The female ghost immortal's expression suddenly changed. She said, young master, everything I said is the truth. I definitely did not deceive you. Young master, don't listen to this person's words to sow discord. Chapter 51:30. What's the point of saying that? Everyone knows whether they should believe lies or not. Lao Wu Tu said, I'm going to kill you. The female ghost immortal screamed and charged towards Lao Wu Tu. Lao Wu Tu waved his sleeve, and a terrifying force surged out. The female ghost immortal was sent flying. Lin Feng narrowed his eyes and looked at Lao Wu Tu. This old man's cultivation was very strong. Although the female ghost immortal's strength had decreased because of the previous battle and her injuries, she was still very strong. However, she had been easily sent flying by Lao Wu Tu. This Lao Wu Tu was really unfathomable. Who are you? Aren't all the Wu clan members dead? Why are you the only one who survived? Furthermore, when my divine sense was born, I noticed that you were spying on me. But after so many years, you never attacked me. What exactly are you planning? The female ghost immortal asked sternly. I'm not killing you because I can't kill you, Lao Wu Tu said indifferently. Then, he looked at Lin Feng and said, little friend, leave now. I know why you're here. When the time comes, you just have to fight for the opportunity you want. Nobody will stop you. Forget about everything else. Don't leave me. The female ghost immortal looked at Lin Feng. In her eyes, there was pleading and fear. Maybe it was just like many years ago when she was burned alive by the person she loved. She used to trust people, but she had ended up like that. Now, she was trying to trust someone else, but she didn't know what the result would be. She was afraid. She had been abandoned again. Lin Feng looked at Lao Wu Tu and said, I think that ghosts are harmless, but people can deceive people. People's hearts are much scarier than ghosts. Ghosts are straightforward, while people beat around the bush. Does that mean you want to meddle in other people's business? Lao Wu Tu looked at Lin Feng with a sinister smile. Said Lin Feng, how could that be called meddling in other people's business? Isn't there a saying that saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda? You saved a female ghost immortal, not a human, Lao Wu Tu said coldly. Lin Feng said, I take back what I said just now. Saving a ghost is better than building a 7-storied pagoda. The corner of Lao Wu Tu's mouth twitched violently when he heard Lin Feng's words. Lao Wu Tu could not help but curse in his heart. This guy, how could he be so shameless? Truly, shameless people are invincible in this world. You don't know what's good for you. Since that's the case, this old man will send you to heaven. Lao Wu Tu looked at Lin Feng with an indifferent expression. He leaped out and instantly arrived beside Lin Feng. Then, he directly sent a palm strike towards Lin Feng. So fast, Lin Feng could not help but be shocked. Lao Wu Tu's speed was indeed too fast. It was unbelievably fast. Fortunately, Lin Feng's reaction was also extremely fast. Lin Feng reacted in an instant. Then, he sent a palm strike towards Lao Wu Tu. Bang! The two sides fiercely collided. Following the violent sound of the collision, Lin Feng felt an earth-shattering force rushing towards his body. That force, it fiercely bombarded Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng was instantly sent flying. "You're too weak." Lao Wu Tu sneered and continued to attack Lin Feng. He wanted to kill Lin Feng in one go. Lin Feng was shocked. How could this old man be so strong? Just as Lin Feng was about to make a move, Lao Wu Tu had already arrived beside Lin Feng. He once again sent a palm strike towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng's expression became ugly. Facing Lao Wu Tu's attack, Lin Feng had no time to use his divine ability. Therefore, he could only block Lao Wu Tu's terrifying attack with his arms. Bang! Lao Wu Tu's tyrannical attack bombarded Lin Feng's arms. Lin Feng was immediately sent flying by Lao Wu Tu. Lao Wu Tu chased after Lin Feng. For the third time, he launched an attack on Lin Feng. At this time, the female ghost immortal rushed over and clawed at Lao Wu Tu with her sharp claws. "Get lost." Lao Wu Tu coldly looked at the female ghost immortal and sent a palm strike through the void. In the middle of his palm, a question mark appeared. D-word. Legend has it that when Buddha was born, he held a question mark. D-word. This question mark, D-word, represented an extraordinary meaning. Bang! Lao Wu Tu's attack collided with the female ghost immortal. The female ghost immortal was greatly restrained by Lao Wu Tu's attack and was sent flying. Her face was as white as paper. Her body fell to the ground and twitched in pain. From time to time, she would scream in pain. "Old thing, eat my spear." Lin Feng took this opportunity to take out his epic war spear and attacked Lao Wu Tu with it. "Xianyuan Dipper Shield." Lao Wu Tu's voice was indifferent. With a wave of his hand, a huge golden light shield appeared in front of him. That golden shield's defensive power was astonishing. When Lin Feng's spear pierced through, it was blocked by Lao Wu Tu's golden shield. Lao Wu Tu's palm struck Lin Feng's chest. Lin Feng was sent flying by Lao Wu Tu's palm strike. Cough, cough. Lin Feng started coughing violently. Although he was wearing the Dominator's armor and using dermic immunity, Lao Wu Tu's palm strike still caused some damage to Lin Feng. This old thing Lao Wu Tu was too terrifying. He had underestimated this old thing. He didn't expect this old thing to be so strong. "You're just an ant. So what if you have a powerful supreme treasure? You still can't escape death." Lao Wu Tu's voice was cold. He was like a grim reaper from hell as he charged at Lin Feng. The Xianyuan Dipper Shield floated in front of him. This guy was good at both offense and defense. He was really a troublesome character. It was too difficult to deal with this kind of cultivator. At this moment, Lin Feng knew that the situation was dangerous. So, Lin Feng decided not to hide his strongest battle power. The Dominator's armor, the Golden Dwarf, the Magic Lotus, the Saint Bone, and the power of his external incarnation all flowed into Lin Feng's body. Lin Feng suddenly sensed that his fighting strength had started to increase rapidly. Although Lin Feng didn't know the powerful spear technique that went with the epic war spear. However, Lin Feng's battle power soared. Even if he didn't know the powerful spear technique that went with the epic war spear, he could still release the power of the epic war spear. Die! Lin Feng held the epic war spear and stabbed at Lao Wu Tu. Chapter 51-31. Facing Lin Feng's attack, Lao Wu Tu still used his Xianyuan Tiangyang shield to block it. Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh coldly. This guy was really confident. Did he really think that his attack was still the same as before? His attack was different now. Things are no longer the same as they used to be. You'll be crying soon. Lin Feng's epic war spear once again stabbed Lao Wu Tu's Xianyuan Tiangyang shield. Last time, the Xianyuan Tiangyang shield blocked the epic war spear's attack. But this time, it couldn't block the epic war spear's attack. Puff. A tearing sound was suddenly heard. Lao Wu Tu's Xianyuan Tiangyang shield was directly pierced through by Lin Feng's epic war spear. The epic war spear then went straight for Lao Wu Tu's neck. Lao Wu Tu's expression suddenly changed. He didn't expect Lin Feng to be able to break through his defensive shield. However, Lao Wu Tu was strong and his reaction was extremely fast. When Lin Feng's spear was still a distance away from Lao Wu Tu, the old man had already moved to the left. Lin Feng's spear pierced through the air. Lin Feng's expression was indifferent. He directly used total annihilation. The war spear in his hand swept towards Lao Wu Tu. The epic war spear swept out a powerful spear light. The powerful spear light directly tore through the void and instantly arrived in front of Lao Wu Tu, sweeping towards him. Lao Wu Tu was shocked and quickly retreated. Even so, his neck was still swept. Suddenly, a huge wound appeared and blood flowed out continuously. Damn it! Lao Wu Tu couldn't help but roar in anger. He was actually injured, which made Lao Wu Tu quite angry. Lao Wu Tu's hand flashed. Suddenly, a halberd appeared. Lin Feng could not help but roll his eyes and say, "Holy shit, you're actually using a weapon like the halberd? Aren't you embarrassed? Don't you think your current appearance is an insult to the halberd?" After hearing Lin Feng's ridicule, Lao Wu Tu's heart was filled with hatred. He said coldly, "Kid, I'm going to grind your bones to dust later. Old thing, I'm afraid you don't have that ability." Lin Feng sneered and charged toward Lao Wu Tu again with his epic war spear. Lin Feng's spear stabbed toward Lao Wu Tu. Lao Wu Tu swept his halberd toward Lin Feng. Clang! Lin Feng's epic war spear and Lao Wu Tu's halberd collided fiercely. A loud clang. The sound reverberated throughout heaven and earth. The surrounding void was actually shattered by the shockwave. The collision of such power was truly terrifying. After Lao Wu Tu took out his treasure, his battle prowess had greatly increased. Therefore, it was not easy to rely on the epic war spear to deal with Lao Wu Tu. Even though Lao Wu Tu was injured, it was still quite difficult to deal with him. He needed to use some new methods. Lin Feng used the one chi into three pure ones technique. Two doppelgangers manifested. Together with Lin Feng, they surrounded Lao Wu Tu. Then, Lin Feng's original body and his clones combined to display 12 layers of domineering magnetic fields. After the 12 layers of domineering magnetic fields were displayed, the 12 layers of domineering magnetic fields suppressed Lao Wu Tu. After being enveloped by Lin Feng's 12 layers of domineering magnetic fields, Lao Wu Tu's battle prowess was greatly reduced. The domineering magnetic fields could reduce a cultivator's battle prowess, but how much? It was related to two aspects. The first aspect, the number of layers of domineering magnetic fields. The more layers of domineering magnetic fields, the more powerful it was, and the more obvious the suppression on the cultivator's cultivation base. The second aspect, the cultivator's cultivation base, was suppressed by the domineering magnetic fields. The stronger the cultivator's cultivation base was, the stronger their ability to resist the domineering magnetic fields. The domineering magnetic fields had less suppression on the cultivator's cultivation base. These two aspects complemented each other. Because Lao Wu Tu's cultivation base was relatively high, Lin Feng's domineering magnetic fields did not suppress Lao Wu Tu's cultivation base as much as imagined. Lin Feng's domineering magnetic fields only weakened Lao Wu Tu's battle prowess by 30%. But to be honest, it weakened Lao Wu Tu's battle prowess by 30%. It was already very impressive. In addition to weakening Lao Wu Tu's battle prowess, Lao Wu Tu's speed was also greatly restricted. Lin Feng's battle prowess, under the support of the domineering magnetic fields, was greatly increased. Therefore, in this situation where one side was weakened and the other side was strengthened, the gap between the two sides suddenly became obvious. Clang, clang, clang. Lin Feng's original body and his two clones continuously fought with Lao Wu Tu for more than 10 rounds. Lao Wu Tu was suppressed. Lao Wu Tu's face became more and more ugly. Perhaps this old thing definitely did not expect that he would be suppressed to this extent by a young cultivator. "Kid, do you really want to fight to the death with me?" Lao Wu Tu's expression darkened as he looked at Lin Feng. "Old thing, now that I've offended you, if I don't kill you, I won't be able to eat or sleep in peace." Lin Feng sneered as he said. His attacks became more and more fierce. Lao Wu Tu's resistance became more and more difficult. At this time, the female ghost immortal also recovered a lot, so she also joined the battle. Because Lao Wu Tu was suppressed by Lin Feng's original body and his two clones, it was difficult for him to divert his attention to deal with the female ghost immortal. Therefore, after the female ghost immortal joined the battle, Lao Wu Tu's situation became worse and worse. Several times, Lao Wu Tu was almost killed, but Lao Wu Tu's cultivation was strong enough to turn danger into safety. But even so, Lao Wu Tu's back was torn by the female ghost immortal in one of Lin Feng's clones, leaving 2 deep wounds on his back. Blood stained his back red. Lao Wu Tu suddenly let out a burst of angry roars. Then, his body emitted a crackling sound. Then, a shocking scene occurred. Lao Wu Tu's body. He actually became younger, and his body also became taller. Damn, what's going on? Could it be that he's going to transform? Seeing the situation in front of him, Lin Feng was suddenly very shocked. You all should go to hell. Lao Wu Tu's cold voice came out. Then, his body completed a transformation in an extremely short period of time. His body changed from a white-haired old man to a cultivator in his 30s. Seeing Lao Wu Tu's transformation, Lin Feng couldn't help but mutter. Was this still Lao Wu Tu? Wasn't this too young? Author's note. I'm feeling much better after catching a cold. 9 chapters today. Please subscribe to the original version. Recently, the subscription hasn't been ideal. Old Mantu's heart is stifled. There's a new member in the family and I need money. Everyone, come to QQ to read or subscribe to the original version of the archaic dragonesque elephant technique. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.